Russ was talking about the ceiling. You know, like there's a ceiling of people, and like the community, I don't think thinks there is a ceiling of people, because we're all in the community and we love the setting, so we don't want to imagine that there is a ceiling.
Is the ceiling created by PGI and its lack of imagination, creativity, implementation?
I think it's remember at the beginning of this I said there's multiple factors behind everything. You weren't sure that Russ sees like he's not seeing what his player base is doing, and I didn't entirely agree. He sees a segment of the player base. So the reason why I suspect he feels that way is because he looks at the numbers that he can understand based off of what they track, and he can see where the engagement is. So like, you see what I'm trying to say here? So they understand within the ecosystem of the thing that they have built, like almost certainly based off of like Shadows of Kerensky, something they said that they would never do. They knew that when they released that would be popular. They didn't know how popular it would be. It ended up being the most popular thing that they've released in a long time.
Quick shout out to our sponsor, Das Print House. If you've been looking for something a little bit bigger for your BattleTech collection, Das Print House is now offering full service custom paint jobs on large form prints. That means you can get something like this Atlas or Timberwolf professionally painted and ready to display without having to paint it yourself. Check out Das Print House and tell them No Guts, No Galaxy sent you. Thanks again to Das Print House for supporting the podcast. Let's start this before we go down the roadmap. First off, Red, nice to meet you. Even though
it's good to meet you as well,
yeah,
Phil.
Yeah, Phil.
I'm used to you being Sean Lang.
I know. Do you know where that came from? I went by Phelan Kell up until MWO. I went by Phelan Kell. I think I was a teenager. Obviously biased. You can see who my favorite character is, and we can talk about that. Yeah,
Phelan Kell, one of my least favorite characters.
Yeah. And so, but when MWO was announced, they said you couldn't use canon names, and at the time, my partner in crime, Darren, we were doing Megamech, and we were doing a Megamech little like campaign, and I was just like, let's just use our middle names and the first 4 letters of your last name, Sean. Sean, Lang, Langenberg. It's one of those. Yeah. And I actually went by Lang anyway in the military, just because saying Langenberg every single time, just no. So I was just Corporal Lang.
More syllables is a crime.
Yeah.
You're stealing from people.
Yeah. So yeah, that's where that came from. So I did go by Phelan Kell. I thought about reversing it, but I'm like, no, I'm just Sean Lang.
We're not live recording right now, right?
Oh yeah, we're going.
Okay, perfect, because I'm not going to divulge my name.
Okay. No, man.
No. So if you want to know where Big Red comes from,
yeah, I was gonna ask.
I used to stream War Thunder on this account, and I streamed as the Big Red Bear because I ran down the Soviet tree, and like I changed the name because how should I put this? I was a moderator for Chapter Master Valrak for years. I was known as the Big Red Bear, no problem. And then when I started producing my own content, I unironically kept on getting engagement, quote unquote, of people who were coming in and accusing me of being a communist. You'd think, oh, they're joking or what, like, no, like a lot of these things were like super hostile, and I was like, let's just take the bear part out of this. And all it took was taking the bear part out. Once the bear part was gone, people stopped associating me.
The connection of bear and communism
because it basically people would associate it with Soviet, which, and I'm not a Soviet, I'm not a communist. I literally was playing a game as Soviet communists,
yes,
as you can in many games, but it just turns out that translation point between two areas just did not work for some people. So even though I was talking about like almost overtly capitalist things in many cases, and some of the stuff I was reviewing, they're like, you know what, this guy's a goddamn damn communist. I'm gonna give him a piece of my mind. It's like, oh my god. I'm
Yeah.
like, let's just change the name and see how it works out.
Yeah, that's a little bit easier, but I mean, you could lean into. Did the 40K come from Warhammer?
Yeah. So
Okay.
so I played BattleTech longer than Warhammer, but like, just to be clear, I didn't think anybody gave a single shit about BattleTech. So I love BattleTech. I started running the channel for BattleTech content like a year or two after I got my Kickstarter stuff from like the Clan Invasion Kickstarter. I put thousands into it because I just love BattleTech. I'm like, finally plastic miniatures. And like, even in the area where I was at, there was not really a resurgence in the BattleTech community at the time. There is now. There's a bunch of play groups in the area, but like at the time, I was just like soloing it. I didn't see a lot of activity. I'm like, well, I love it. I'm gonna keep on reading about it. I'm gonna keep on playing the game online and stuff like that. Like, who cares? But I'm not. I'm really kind of divesting from Warhammer at this point because they made a bunch of decisions at Games Workshop that I wasn't a fan
We're
of.
best friends. So, I don't know if you know that.
Oh, I found out about that. That was hilarious. but like,
we're like this. Like, just, you know.
And so I'm like, because I have to stress, like, I actually like got my start as a channel because of the support of Valrak, who is one of the nicest people I've ever met on the internet. I would take a bullet for Valrak, and like, what's amazing is like, I'm just going to cover BattleTech this one time, and you know, like, it's my birthday, I can cover what I want. And people were way more engaged and interested in my BattleTech content than they were in my Warhammer content. And I was like, oh, this actually works out perfectly, because A, I've done this for longer, B, it's like my favorite franchise, and C, like, it's just a cool thing to talk about. So that is why I started producing a lot of BattleTech content.
I was gonna say, like, Warhammer. There's been a lot of drama in the Warhammer / BattleTech, obviously, community. Not directly. It's more of like, I guess they would say, people coming over from Warhammer 40K. What is your feeling on that?
There's no problem with that.
No, what I'm saying is, did you notice a influx of people? Because like my content was MWO specific. So it didn't really.
I think it was growing without that.
Okay.
I think that there's a factor definitely behind Warhammer fans coming in. You could see a few of it, but like a few examples of it, I should say. But like, the truth is plastic miniatures, video games, things like that were already drawing people towards the IP, and like HPS BattleTech would actually be the biggest factor behind what was behind what was drawing people in. And like, there are some Warhammer people who were disgruntled at the time who showed up, absolutely, but by and large, it was a mostly organic movement of people just showing up.
The reason I asked that is because like on my streams and stuff, obviously it'd be a talking point, and I just felt, I was like, I sort of felt the same way. It was like, maybe it's just happening anyways. I don't know if it's that. Was it an actual thing of like people were pissed off, and then BattleTech, and then like, let's go down that rabbit hole?
I am sure that there is a percentage of the growth that is legitimately that. I'm 100% sure of it. But I think it's just overstated. I think that like with all things, people want simple answers. They want simple, clean, you know, like, oh, this is definitely what happened. It's not really how life works. There's a series of contributing factors behind everything, and that is one of them, but it's not the only one. There's a ton of other stuff that happened that led to that success pool, and I think that BattleTech is in a great place right now. And like, you know, I'm just overjoyed about that, to be honest, because like, I just love sharing stuff with people. I love, you know, like, being able to share my hobby with other people and just have a good time.
Yeah, my I would say knowledge of Warhammer had to do with mainly like Dawn of War, with
getting
Marine.
Stuck in a lawsuit, you know, like.
Yeah, I mean, that was the thing. Dude, yeah, we could talk about that one.
We don't need to. No, you know what? We don't need to talk about that. I just thought it was hilarious.
No, I am all for like educational purposes, but like, yeah, it's one of those where I had no feelings about Games Workshop really outside of that until that happened on a personal level. And then, yeah, I'm just like, well, you can go fuck yourself, pretty much as a company, like,
I actually don't even have a particularly negative view of Games Workshop.
yeah,
I don't like how they handle their social media engagement and things like that. I could go on about individual things, but like I used to like do some corpo stuff for a living, and so like I just sit there. I'm like, guys,
yeah,
it's a large company.
yep,
It has a major IP it's protecting.
yep.
It's going to do a bunch of things that makes you unhappy, because of like what it is.
Well, and there's some
And like,
crossover with BattleTech as far as the like if BattleTech was as big as
I have no
Warhammer.
doubt if FASA was still around and it was a $6 billion company, everything would be this. It's not the way it is because it's Games Workshop. It's the way it is because it's a $6 billion company.
Yeah. And
Look at Hasbro. Hasbro is a worse actor than Games Workshop in many respects. Not entirely, but like, like give and take depending on the issue of the day. And like, Hasbro catches a massive amount of bullshit from people too, because Hasbro is not always a good actor. Like, you have to remember, they sent like armed Pinkertons to some guy's house because they accidentally sent him a pack of magic. It's like, so you have like, we have to take like into consider like, but it's like, why is Hasbro behave that way? Because they're an $8 billion company.
Yeah, and that's where when I logically talk about it, I'm okay with like, yes, I see why what they were doing with the lawsuit. I just got caught up inadvertently because, and this is where
for the record, it's total horseshit that they did this.
And
like,
also,
I'm not defending Games Workshop in the
no.
I'm just saying I just don't expect any better.
Well, okay, that's fair. I don't know the company enough to like say that. I guess my thing was, and for those that just aren't educated or even know what this happened, in the documents that they provided to their court down in Florida, it even said, oh, well, we did our due diligence. But every lawyer I talked to basically said is what it probably was an intern that used probably ChatGPT to scrub the internet and find instances of Warhammer.
They're doing that right now. There's a massive controversy right now. They're doing it again. They've been hitting YouTube videos.
Let's go down this rabbit hole, because it doesn't just have to do with battle. Because I do feel BattleTech has some crossover. They have to protect their IP to some extent. And the majority of people that were on the lawsuit I was a part of were Chinese websites. Good luck suing them. Like, where are you going to get their money? But then there was individuals. So obviously when I made that video, I had a few Warhammer individuals contact me from the community. One of them was a very large YouTube channel that made a few videos following up. He was the only one that actually reached out and asked questions, like, and I provided I was like, here's my receipt from my lawyer, here's this, blah, blah, blah. But I got contacted by a few other actual like Etsy and I would say stores, and they were getting sued for thousands of dollars. They were trying to get sued for like millions of dollars, but they ended up having to settle behind the scenes just because they were creating a item for sale, even though it was fan made. It wasn't like a mini. It wasn't like a Chaos Marine or Space Marine.
It was probably like, it was like a banner
no, not even that. It was like a crochet thing. Yeah. It was something like, and I'm like, what sucks with it is it's like, depending on your IP, Disney, very litigious. It's like when something gets that big, they have to do blanket sweeps, and unfortunately I was caught up in that. I got it taken care of, but it definitely put a sour taste in my mouth for the company.
I myself, I would swear an oath of vengeance until my dying day if they did that to me. So I just want to, like, I want to stress, like, I understand, but I'm just saying in the context of like, it's the size of the company more so than it is the company itself. It's just, this is what a $6 billion company
and that sort of brings me to the point of like BattleTech, of like the crossover, is because I think the nature of BattleTech and the IP and where it's at, even with Catalyst Game Labs and PGI and Microsoft, so forth, and so it's not even Catalyst. It was Tops. It's no longer Tops. It's a different.
It's Fanatics. They're a brand for sports paraphernalia.
Gotcha. So now they're the owners of the physical side of stuff, the tabletop, and that blah blah blah.
So they cover the tabletop game, the novels, Basically anything that is either a physical product or a literature product, as
Yep.
far as I can tell, or a physical game in some form. Microsoft covers digital products and software.
Yep.
Which means that, like, but that doesn't cover ebooks, because ebooks would fall under the
yeah,
purview of this other one.
I know people want to make it like it's super complicated. I'm like, it's actually not.
Well, I mean, there are 3 to 4 people who have it. So you've got Torrente, which has the media rights, or at least is the last one we think has the media rights.
I heard
they might
Sony
not,
had
like,
it last. I don't know if that's.
But
yeah.
like, just it can
doesn't
juggle
matter.
around. Like, it can juggle around, but there is a company that has the actual media rights. And I don't know this for sure, but or it might be a sub-license that they have, or they might be the owners of it. But the virtual world folks might have the it's a weird descriptor for like on-site 3D engagement. So like so I don't know that for sure, but like they might have a sub-license, or they might own that particular portion of the license.
Yeah, I think I had him on a we had him on a podcast years ago, the guy that owned the pods and
virtual world.
Yeah. And I don't know if we spoke about it back then, but yeah, I'm sure even if they just basically got a thumbs up from Microsoft,
like it's either a sub license or they actually, but so that's why I say like the license is broken up in 3, maybe 4 directions. At least that's from what I can tell.
It's unfortunate that Jordan Wiseman wasn't able to bring everything home. Unfortunately, I think them fastest...
He just gets distracted.
Well, and builds another company and sells something.
I've met people like this throughout my life, and like once I met Jordan Weissman and like sat down and like got to like hear him and Mike Stackpole do like this address to a bunch of people to an event I was invited to, I figured it out right away. I'm like, no, I understand everything now.
Yeah. I was more saying is once he sold it to Microsoft, I don't think there was ever getting it back, and because I think he regrets that decision. But I think at the time, I mean, let's just say it was $1 million he sold it to. I mean, he made good, like he had to do what was right for his family and stuff like that. But it just sort of leaves everything in this weird spot, and we'll get into like the digital side of games versus the physical side, and one's doing a lot better than the other right now. Yeah, so let me, obviously, I ask a lot of people, how did you get into BattleTech? Because you said you've been a BattleTech fan a long time. I think that's a fair
got
question.
into BattleTech when I was 7 or 8 years old.
Okay.
And I got into it. I am 40.
Okay.
I got into it because this is back in like 93, 94.
Mm-hmm.
And I got into it because of my best friend when I was a kid. His older brother was a BattleTech fan who was in college. So like there's a big gap between the two of their ages, right? And so his older brother was off to college and had like a couple regiments of metal battle mechs, had all of the rule books and everything. And obviously my friend got into it first, and then I got into it through him. I was like, oh, this is amazing. What an incredible game. I got to check out like all his TROs and all this stuff. We accidentally broke several of his miniatures. I know John already knows that. That's not a secret. But anyway, so like that, like we got to hang out with all of this stuff, and then MechWarrior came out like a year or two later, and I was like, this is BattleTech, like this is crazy. And so I got into MechWarrior. So I played MechWarrior, tabletop BattleTech. I played tabletop pretty continuously up until about 2003, just before I got out of high school, just before I graduated. And then I played MegaMech once I moved to a different city, because there was like no play group in this area. So I played MegaMech for about 6 years on a bunch of servers and stuff. Then it was a quiet period in terms of the tabletop for me from like 2010 through to like the clan Kickstarter. Like I did play a little bit, but there just wasn't a lot going on. And a lot of the MegaMech communities at that time, you played MegaMech, obviously, they would ebb and flow. So like sometimes there would be like higher player counts. Once there's a higher player count, I would be interested in playing. But whenever it dipped into a lower player count, which would happen seasonally almost, it was just like, well, just not all that interested in playing the same guy 3 times a week.
Yep.
Just not a very interesting experience. Yeah, like once the Client Invasion Kickstarter came out, more activity on Megamech, so I played a little bit more there. Started getting my miniatures in, and yeah, just do a lot more with everything BattleTech related since that point.
Did you touch base with MWO at all, or?
Oh yeah, I was a drop caller for the Free Worlds Guard.
Okay.
So, oh yeah, man, I fought for the Free Worlds Guard for several years. I kickstarted, or whatever backing program they had,
Founders,
for Founders. I did the biggest package they could do. I got all 4 mechs. I played that game a ton, because you have to remember, I did World of Tanks, War Thunder, very similar play set, so I knew what I was getting into right away. I did the beta. Loved MWO, especially when they had like the peak player engagement of, like, for me the invasion stuff was the best. In fact, I would actually say MWO provided me with the single best gaming session I ever played in my entire life.
Really?
Yeah, and it was during faction play, and me and a bunch of, like, it was me and only one other guy from the Free Worlds Guard, I forget his name, and like we looked at the thing and everybody on this other team was tagged. Like, everybody's tagged. It's an organized group. I won't say who, but I believe they were a Russian crew, and like everyone on our side is all randoms. And so I'm in TeamSpeak, and I'm just like, this is a disaster. Like, we're going to lose this game. And you know what? Like, so we're talking on the build-up. I'm like, you know what? Let me try something. He's like, what are you doing? Like, hold on. And I logged into my voice for the rest of the team. And I'm like, guys, we all can see, like, what this looks like. This looks grim. But if you do what I tell you to do, I promise we will kill these guys. And the team actually rallied. I'm like, guys, I need you 4 here. I need you guys here. We're going to harass them on the way in. It was on the Frozen one with the team play. Sure. And I was just like, where they have the canyon running up the side. I'm like, they're going to run the canyon because they don't respect us. I'm like, because I knew right away, I'm like, they're all tagged and they know we only have 2 people in here who's tagged. I'm like, they do not respect us. They will try to just barge through because they think they're just going to kill everybody. No, we're going to harass them on the way in, and you 4 stay shut down. Do not engage them. I don't want you on the radar. It's like, when they come through this area, come out behind them. We had 4 100-ton mechs turn on, come in behind them. We wiped the first wave with no losses. And you could tell they were raging mad. You could tell they were raging mad. And we barely won that game because the next 3 waves, they obviously were a lot less... wiping that first wave, you could tell they were so angry. It's like watching a bunch of pissed off hornets.
Yeah. I played faction played a little bit, but it's not what I wanted.
They used a king crab as a battering ram in the last wave. So in the last wave, because we had whittled down all of their assets, and we were whittled down too, and I could see them coming in. There was a single king crab waddling up the field with like 4 medium and light mechs around it, because we were going to use this thing to finish off the defense platform. And I'm like, I just told the crew at that time, because we're whittled down at this point. We've only got lights, but I had a medium mech, and I was in a Wolverine, and I remember I tapped into the crew. I'm like, guys, it's like, I've done everything I can. This is the last moment. I'm going to go out here and I'm going to see what I can do about that king crab. I'm like, if you can peel them off of him, we can probably win this. And so the rest of the crew, they're doing their own thing, but they peel the lights and medium escorts. I was hiding in the buildings on the other side on the way up. As soon as the light mechs peeled to go, try to finish off our team, I run up behind the king crab and I start attacking from behind. He's too slow and he starts flailing. He's like, no! I kill the king crab. All of their angry mechs come back like, no! They kill me. But I'm grinning at this point because I know they no longer have the firepower or the time to actually win the engagement. And I left them a salty comment at the end of it too. I'm like, hey guys, sorry, because I knew the time in Russia. I'm like, sorry to shit in your coffee. So they were not They were not very happy. I heard from the other guy I work, like, who helped me pull all this together. He's like, yeah, so they attacked the Free Worlds League for like the next 6 hours after we left. I'm like, yeah, that's the right play. I'd do the same.
Yeah, yeah. I know there was a lot of hype about faction play, and a lot of people. And back then, MWO, I mean, had quite a big population and units.
Yeah.
I remember even before MWO even officially came out, there was units with like hundreds of people. HHOD, I remember, was a big group. And then they had to, because they limited on faction play, you can only have 250. So like they would create multiple like, groups or whatever.
Subgroups, sub branches,
yeah, to do it. But okay, so you played MWO. Obviously, HBS BattleTech. Did you back that? Everything.
I have backed and played everything that has come out since MWO. Like I even backed like MechWarrior Tactics.
Why'd you stop playing MWO?
Oh, I mean, just time. So like it's the same reason I don't play War Thunder. I just can't do the grind. I've got too many other things to do, and I'm not the type of person who can just sit down for an hour in an evening, play 2 games, and then go on with my day. No, if I'm going to play a game, I play it to completion. But that's the problem. There is no completion. It's just the grind.
Yeah.
So anything that's a grind fest now, I just kind of like go, and just do something else.
I don't think you're the only one, man. I think that model, obviously MWO being a World of Tank clone in this sense.
I know what you mean by that.
And Russ loves World of Tanks.
Oh,
yeah, he's a huge fan. I wonder if MWO would have had the success World of Tanks has. I wonder where MechWarrior would be right now. But
I mean, realistically speaking, MechWarrior Online is not really like. I mean, it's going to be a legacy game in the sense of I'm sure it makes enough to exist, but not really any more than that. But at the end of the day, like it's just going to slowly dwindle over the next like couple of years or decade, and then it'll just quietly go away. Is what my suspicion is.
Yeah, I know a lot of people have asked, like, why don't they hand it off to the community? And I keep telling them because Canada has certain laws, but Europe has certain laws too when it comes to gaming. Granted, I brought this up last time, and someone was saying that's new games have to follow those certain rules, like older games, if they're already created, don't. But the idea that like you own the stuff that's in MWO, they can't just shut it off or whatever. And also too is like, why would you turn it off right now? It's I don't know what the technical term is from a business, but like you've got a core group, at least 20,000 individuals somewhat that play every month. If it's keeping the lights on, more than,
as I said, it keeps it keeps it alive enough that they're willing to even release mechs for it.
Yeah.
So like, at the end of but also I'm gonna be a spoiler. I'm gonna be the villain of this story.
Ooh, hot take.
I love the community. I've always loved like mods and things like that, even though I'm not the biggest modder myself. I love that people do them, even if I don't use all of them or that many of them. The community is great at being insular and keeping things alive within that community. Very rarely do community projects branch out beyond the community. So like what I mean is like somebody who loves Warhammer or Lego, or it doesn't matter what it is, and creates like this fan community, it attracts people who are already in that ecosystem exclusively.
Yep.
It does not bring in, but it only tends to attract the most hardcore people.
Yes.
Because they will focus on like, well, we need to make sure that like the Martel medium laser is mildly different from this other brand of medium laser.
I love this conversation.
I'm just saying they focus in on the stuff.
I really do. Yeah.
Like, and again, I'm willing to be the villain over it because like I've been in fandom communities my whole life. Yes, people see my BattleTech fandom, but like, I used to love Marvel. I used to love like, Warhammer. Well, actually, I still love the old world. Like Warhammer, the old world, I'm still in it to win it. So like, I'm not even I love Cyberpunk and Shadowrun and like all of these other. Yeah. Oh, they're fantastic, but the fan base projects don't tend to be broad appeal projects. They tend to narrow in and nitpick and like really aim at people, like really aim more at people who are really already deep in.
Well, that makes sense too, right? Because like the people that are going to mod are that core what you just said.
And yeah,
right?
absolutely.
So like then it's this self-fulfilling prophecy.
Yes, but it's just it's an Ouroboros. It becomes this self-eating snake. And like and I say that as somebody, I download mods, I like mods, I love community projects, but I think that people overestimate what community projects can do. And like, so if, let's say, the community took over MWO,
okay,
it will still shrink.
Where you're going.
It will still shrink.
Oh,
it
yeah,
is still
100%.
going to erode away. It's not going to, like, people act like it will become this self-equalizing ecosystem with constant flows of new people. It's like, probably not, because there's no evidence that actually happens.
I see where you're going. I'm tracking now.
So like, again, I'm the villain.
No, I don't think that's
I
don't think that's a villain at all. I think that's just being real, where a lot of people want to put on their enthusiasm hats and be all excited. And it's like, okay, that's fine, you can be, but also realistically, MWO being taken over.
I was in sales and marketing before I did. I did, because this. So like,
I've said this. I've said I think the community has the people, the tools, and the warehouse to be able to create, for instance. I'm sure we'll talk about Mech Commander, but Mech Commander projects, or hey, Living Legends, or like a Living Legends 2. We have the Mech 5 mercenaries and clans now, full mod kit, full mod tools.
Yep.
And yet, even with all that, yes, we have MechWarrior 5 mods. You don't see anything like drastic come out where it's like, holy shit, this is a conversion mod that's created this whole new experience, and yeah, like you need to play this or that, and you just don't have that out there, because again, one thing as adults is time and money, and you have to pay bills. Then you have kids, and you're like, yeah, so it's just one of those things where I was wondering where you're going with there, but like, yeah, community projects, MWO taking over. I mean, MWO has been
like, and I have to stress, community projects are incredibly important. So this is not me downplaying them, but what it is like, I'm not going to upplay them, because like I've heard, like I have been in so many community projects for various titles, or I've supported them and whatnot, and like, I used to, like, when I was in my 20s, I was like, yeah, this is the way. This is going to be like the big breakout. Because one thing that like I noticed with your talk with Russ is like, Russ was talking about the ceiling. Like there's a ceiling of people, and like the community, I don't think thinks there is a ceiling of people, because we're all in the community and we love the setting, so we don't want to imagine that there is a ceiling. But like, the companies run into a ceiling, and they're doing generic releases trying to draw in the general audiences. Like, like if you think the ceiling is like, if the ceiling for that is there, how low is the ceiling for the other stuff?
Okay, so let me ask you. You've listened to the podcast and you just referenced that. Is the ceiling created by PGI and its lack of imagination, creativity, implementation?
I think it's remember at the beginning of this I said there's multiple factors behind everything. I think that the ceiling's height is there. I do think there's a ceiling. How high the ceiling is impacted by several things all at once, some of it being PGI. Some of it being where the culture is for what people want out of video games or out of a setting. So like, if you mutate BattleTech into not being BattleTech to draw more people in, and even if that's successful, why did you bother? Why didn't you make your own IP?
Yeah.
So some of it is the IP, and not because the IP is bad. BattleTech is a long-standing IP that tens of millions of people have interacted with at some point in their life. When you factor in all the various games, the show, online stuff, tabletop games, like I'm sure there's 10 or 20 million people at a minimum who have had some level of engagement with this, who are still alive today.
Sure.
But which is resoundingly successful. Like there's no world where you're like, well, that's basically nothing. It's like, no, most franchises never get anywhere near what BattleTech has done, but like, there's also a ceiling. There's like, even with those people, how many of those people want more of it? How many of those
Sure.
people are interested in coming back? How many new people can you draw in? And there are factors behind it. What does the setting say? Like, some people are super turned off by the clans. Like, you bring up anything, like, you know, even new people who come in, they read about how the Jade Falcons and Wolves, and, you know, participate with one another in their private lives, and they're like, no. Or you'll have people read like the Great Houses and they'll be like, oh man, this sucks, where's the democracy? I want to play the good guys and all of these guys are dictators. It's like, yeah, that's correct. But like, you know, but you see, like, you know, there are elements to the setting where people are looking for things that the setting doesn't really provide to them, and the question becomes, does the setting, why would, like, at what point do you mutate the setting, either in mechs, politics, culture, history? At what point do you mutate it to draw in more people potentially, but then you lose people on the other side who go like, this isn't really what I wanted,
Yeah.
this isn't really what I got involved with.
Yeah.
And that's just on the flavor text. That's before you get into like the video game aspect or the tabletop aspect. Like, how much do you change about the game to try to draw in the largest audience possible and engage the most people possible? And can you do that without losing the audience you already have?
Is, like I said, I'm just curious of, because, you know, Russ has used the word niche. I know a lot of people love that one out there. It's a meme. Magic Penglove. Sorry,
Don't say niche in the courtroom. No, in the boardroom, bro.
I said it.
Don't say niche.
But
don't
you know,
do it, bro.
that word, that the N word there, and then the ceiling. You know, that last interview was interesting because I've known Russ, and we had a unique relationship because me and Darren, we were sort of friends with him, but then also he was the boss. But we had a lot of freedom up until, for those who don't know, we used to do contract work for PGI up until 2020. So I knew him on a personal level, and so, but when I saw him on this one, some people were like, oh, he looks defeated. And I look at it as like, I think he's just looking a little bit, as you said, he's seen maybe limitations here or there, but also there's also, you want
there is a higher ceiling than what PGI is tapping into.
And also, I don't know if I want the CEO to feel that way about the IP. Like, there's one understanding it, but like, you gotta have a little bit of magic, right? You know,
the problem is, like, so, well, we talked on like your stream, like not verbally, but like we talked by text a week or 2 weeks ago, or three weeks ago, where it was just before I got sick. It was awesome. But I remember, like, engaging with you on live stream and talking a bit about it, where you said, you weren't sure that, like, that Russ sees, like, he's not seeing what his player base is doing, and I didn't entirely agree. He sees a segment of the player base. So the reason why I suspect he feels that way is because he looks at the numbers that he can understand based off of what they track, and he can see where the engagement is. And so, like, this would be the same with anybody in any sales. Like, they basically are able to look at, like, okay, why are people buying this particular thing? What was different about this? You start breaking down, like, okay, well, this one we did this, then this, and this was more successful. We then released this one and had diminishing returns, so we changed the formula for this one. What did that do? Where was those changes from? So they do have an understanding of what entices people based on the products that they have released. So, like, you see what I'm trying to say here? So they understand within the ecosystem of the thing that they have built what will get the response from the audience that they have found.
Yeah, I mean, I guess maybe is like, that's what you hope is, did they learn from that? Instead of just saying, we just needed to follow the money, and so we did this to make sure we got money.
Well, no, they have learned what stimulates the audience that they have built. Like almost certainly based off of, like, Shadows of Kerensky, something they said that they would never do. They knew that when they released that would be popular. They didn't know how popular it would be. It ended up being the most popular thing that they've released in a long time. But they figured it out, that they stopped digging their heels in to do, like, to do this thing. And they're like, let's just do this because we think there's money here, because our data is informing us that this is
but
where
that's
there's
PGI
going
in
to be
general.
money.
Is how many times does the community say, "Hey, we want this," and they're like, "Okay, we're gonna do it," but then they do it their own way. Solaris and MWO was a fucking disaster because they did it their own way. Even faction play objectively failed because you had Brian Ekman go up there and give his whole speech instead of saying like, "Hey, actually, what does the sort of community want?" And then take it from there. Let's whatever it is. And I mean, Shadow of Karinsky, I think I said when I was playing it, and I was playing vanilla, no mods, whatever. I can mean you can talk.
I mostly play vanilla.
Yeah.
I do test mods out and stuff like that, but I find most mods don't actually like. It's just adding a favorite.
It's superficial.
Just,
yeah. And I've said this. I don't know if you agree. It's as Mech 5. It's like as wide as an ocean, as deep as a puddle. Like there's no depth to the game and gameplay and so forth. And we'll get into that. But the Shadow Krinsky thing, to me, I was like, it's like looking at a product. I'm like, oh man, this Mech 5 Mercs, I think, is probably one of the best PvE MechWarrior games to date.
Oh, definitely.
But it could just be so much better with some imagination
sure.
and some stuff. And that's where I always have the hiccup of like, and also, I love the mods. I love people modding, but when I look at like yet another mech lab, whether it's in BTA or Rogue Tech or
big shout out to the guys at yet another mech lab. They did help me actually make my Warhammer 2C video like years ago. Like, so I just have to say that like as a community, they are like incredibly cool.
No, this goes back to what you're saying. Is what I see there is exactly what maybe a hardcore fan would want in the sense. But I don't see any imagination because they all look the same. And it's just a wall of just slots and systems. It's a puzzle piece. And I've argued, hot take, that I think, the community...
limitations are actually what make things unique.
But PGI tried doing this. They just didn't allow some levers here or there for unique. Like I critique, here's the inner sphere. The mechs suck. Like, but you could have focused on creating the player as the hero and the hero's sort of journey and the hero's choice. Like maybe you could have customized something, blah, blah, blah. Or the lack of depth where, hey, just FYI, like there's literally that cicada that I love the cicada, but I can't do anything with it because of your game mechanics. It's literally shit. So like it's pointless. It's just fodder. And then the
cicada is the greatest mech that's ever been designed. I don't know if you know this or not, but it's 40 tons of lethal fighting power.
Look, I'm saying in the novels, it's highly.
No, it's not. It's not even good in the novels. It's a fat locust.
In the novels, a mech is a lot more lethal than what they are in the games. Like that's my point. It's like
sometimes they're a lot less lethal actually. So like it depends. Like a locust gets taken out by Grayson Carlisle with very minimal effort. Like
because the pilot didn't want to be burned alive. But if that locust would have fired his medium laser, there would have just been no upper body and just legs left of them. That's my point. Is like
I agree. I'm just saying that like let's like
we were actually talking about this. Like I feel the so me and Alex were talking about the violence of mechs. I think is lacking in Mech 5 and even MWO because of balance and how this. I'm talking about the visceral nature of like
your mech should be knocked over. Your mech should be badly mauled and things like that.
Or just cacophony of what a PPC is. It's like or a 120 millimeter cannons going off. I've been around 120s.
They're pretty. That's pretty. I mean, they're the standard MBT.
Yeah, imagine this thing has a cyclical rate of X amount of rounds per minute, and you're just like, or 50 cals going off that are basically machine gun. Like there's so much lack of violence. I feel like in a lot of games it's constrained.
I would describe it as depth. So the depth of noise. So it's like you should feel the rattle of the machine guns on your mech's chassis. Like if you're a 40-ton mech and you're firing 6 machine guns, in real life, a vehicle, even at 40 tons, is going to feel the kickback of firing all 6 of those 50 cal weapons at the same time, especially with the rate of fire that they're doing. You should feel more recoil when you're firing an autocannon. When your mech is hit, you should feel more recoil that it's taken a hit. There's a reason why the tabletop game, if you take 20 damage, you start taking piloting skill rolls.
Yeah.
Like, because you might fall over because of the violence, as you're saying, of the strike on your chassis. So, like, you know, I don't disagree with that. I think that's hard to put it. So the problem is they're afraid that if they put that, like, so I'll use a good example here. I used to play 2 versus 2 and 3 versus 3 for Dawn of War 2 and Company of Heroes 1 and Company of Heroes 2. I played these things every night for years because, like, I was just super into the style of gameplay. They ruined Company of Heroes 2 because a bunch of people in the quote competitive scene bitched and moaned that it snowed. They're like, oh, in game it can snow, and that stalls the gameplay at this one critical juncture. I was winning up until this guy timed that it was going to snow when the warning came up, and so I lost the game because this guy used the snow as cover. It's like, yeah, so he did the thing that you would historically do in the middle of a blizzard to his advantage, and then he defeated you? Yeah, but that game sucks because of that. Like, oh my god. Like, so... like for anybody who's a competitive co-player who hated the fact that they had the snow tech in Company of Heroes 2, I am so sorry that you have no creativity in your life. But that's the same approach that they have with things like MechWarrior. I'm not saying that Russ or his team specifically do, I don't know that, but I kind of get that vibe that they're worried about putting stuff like, oh, the mech takes all this damage and then it falls over. How does the player feel that they fell over?
Well, it's
Like,
not a
you know,
feel,
like,
it's from a
like
gameplay perspective too. Like an MWO knockdown was death. And like, so okay.
Yeah, because if you get knocked down, you die, dog.
Yeah, like, yeah. So like, but, and some of this stuff is like, I say, well, what's gameplay like? And, you know, sometimes we can say stuff, but actually implementation or whatever versus reality is like, you know.
Sure.
Yeah.
But I'm just saying that, like, if you want that extra level of violence is what you're talking about, unfortunately, the reason why we don't see that is because they're going to play it safe because, you know, quite literally snowy weather in your East Front, you know, designed video game is enough to set players off. Like, you know, unfortunately, like, I do think there's a degree of it that's in gaming culture where people expect the games to accommodate them to such a degree that the games all start becoming very safe. You know, like, and this is like not just like, I mean, you can even take a look at like the constant erratas of Warhammer 40,000. They're not just erratas because of bad game design. In some cases, they're erratas because people's feelings get hurt. Like, you know, like, you know, like, and like, you know what? I'm one of them. If something sucks in a game and feels wrong, I will be like, this sucks. I didn't like this. This wasn't cool. But at the end of the day, sometimes it's like other people might disagree, or it might have added more depth to the game that I didn't see at the time. And just because it gave me a negative experience the first time I ran into it doesn't mean that it's a negative experience for the whole game.
Yeah,
right.
I mean,
like,
look at Mercs, man. There's people that think Mercs is the next best thing to slice bread, and I am like, I'm glad you enjoy it. I'm glad you like it like that. I'm glad you, you know, it's like I don't have that same experience. Same game, two different expectations, two different experiences, and, you know, going to clans as well. We were talking about, like, I think you said you prefer clans.
I love clans.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I can't. Yeah. I like, the biggest problem I have with clans is like, I don't even mind the on the rail shooting part of it because I feel engaged. I feel like the atmosphere is what I'm looking for in the game. Similar to how I used to play MechWarrior when I was a kid. I loved, you know, MechWarrior 2. I loved MechWarrior 4. Not as big on MechWarrior 3, which makes me a bit of an apostate. But once I found out that MechWarrior 3, how much money they threw at that game, I'm like, that's hilarious. But like, but what it ends up being is like, I was happy with that experience because it reflected what I used to enjoy, even if they added a little bit too much killing to it. So when I say that, I mean, like, in MechWarrior 2, you actually wouldn't engage that many mechs in a single engagement. And the only critique on the gameplay front that I would say for 5 clans is that they softened the mechs up a little bit, because they're trying to have like that. I forget what COD calls it, but it's like a time to kill. Basically, you feel more accomplished when you knock out more things. So that's a little too high. And I don't want to say that like it's like, oh, I can't say. No, it's fine. Like I enjoyed it for that. I enjoyed the atmosphere around the game. I felt drawn in. I don't actually really feel that with Mercenaries very much. I don't feel the atmosphere. I don't feel the I'm gonna drop with a bunch of people. I know that there's gonna be 4 mechs that will drop here. There will be 4 mechs that drop there. And even though someone will be like, yeah, but if you play this campaign, you know what happens in the campaign. It's like, yeah, but I feel engaged in the campaign, and I don't feel engaged with the procedurally generated content.
Well, I think we talked about this when you were in chat, which was Mech 5 Mercs. You're playing game modes.
Yeah.
As soon as you understand that, and you're like, oh, I'm doing this mission. No, you're not doing a mission. You're doing a game mode. You're playing a game mode, and that game mode has a set of rules. And this is where sometimes people push back and they're like, I really enjoy that. And I'm like, that's fine. That's it. That's the gameplay loop. Cool. Awesome. I just wish the gameplay loop had more depth to it. And when you have a procedural system, which, by the way, I knew there was going to be limitations, and talking to Russ is when he basically said we doing that system definitely like constrained the creativity that we could do. Whereas if they were able to do a Mech 6 Mercs, which I think that's actually what the audience would want across the board. I may not agree with that, like necessarily. Like I like online play.
I think Mech 6 Mercs would be a commercial failure if they did one right now.
No, I'm not saying right now. I'm saying like if they were to do one, I think having their success of what they've taken with Mercs and clans, they brought over what worked with clans, and that is better storytelling and cinematics. And then, like, imagine if the level of detail as far as the DLCs were what they are now, Shadow Kerensky and Chaos Reign were at the very beginning. But I go back to, even with their hand-drawn missions, it's almost all game modes. And it's boring. I mean, I have flashbacks of like the Hatchetman running at me at 64 kph, and you're just giga drilling every single one, and there's no really like, that's so boring to me. Like that's not.
So the biggest problem is, and this is so you've played Mech 4, you've played Mech 2.
Yep.
So when you play these older games, you're still giga drilling everything.
Yes.
So the problem is. So if you take a look at Mech 2, Mech 3, and Mech 4, you can actually tactically approach situations a little bit differently than in Mech 5. So like the mission layout is better in the context of like they give you options on how you're going to deploy your unit. But those options are kind of dependent on you not giga drilling everything. So like, because the developers at the time couldn't imagine a world where you would stick only PPCs on your mech. I know that sounds crazy, but I'm just being for real. They couldn't imagine you're out there like the Beef with 11 Clan Tech PPCs.
Why you gotta bring it up? Why you gotta do it? I've gone to therapy. I've done,
the first time I actually saw you in a video. This is like a decade ago when I was working in a computer shop. I was just like, oh wow, like, oh, the Beef, that's actually hilarious, because I never engaged really with the community that much. I mostly just played the games. And then like the first time I saw you, it's like, he's running around in this weird ERPP direwolf, guys.
Warned people. I have watched it. Yeah, I joke.
I love the moment you're like, gosh dang it.
Yeah, man. It's so funny because like obviously I love Beef and I love all of his content. And you know what? I'll say this.
Beef, he's amazing.
Speaking of content creation, and I'll just take this sidestep because you brought up that ability to find humor in a script, being able to write it down and then execute it using like game elements. There was no one else like him, and I've always been jealous of that because like I just don't have that whatever that is, the creativity it is. I've always been jealous of that.
I will always, like, even though it is one of my most controversial videos, I will always be, just because like I have learned that some people just like can't stand it if somebody's not doing something entirely in their own language. I don't know, just because I'm Canadian, like where it's bilingual. I can't speak French, but it's just I hear French up here more than I suspect. But we did a joke at the beginning of my Direwolf video, because I cover in the Direwolf video, I actually cover the Dire Star. I was like, because I actually don't like the Direwolf. I can't stand it. I think it's the most boring piece of shit in BattleTech history. Like when I was a kid, I was like, "Oh, Direwolf, got to get into the Direwolf," because I was playing MechWarrior or whatever. Like it's the biggest, it's the heaviest. But as I've gotten older, I'm like, this is boring. Like this is a boring mech. It goes the optimal speed, and it's got 50 tons for it to fill with guns, and you do nothing but point and giga drill whatever you're looking at, whether it's the video game or the tabletop. It's not that it's not effective. I have to stress, I'm not saying that like the Direwolf is not an effective mech, but it is so boring. I hate taking it. I would love to take anything else. Well, so it's like, how am I going to make this Direwolf video interesting? Because just letting you know, if I don't like dealing with the subject matter, I usually struggle to cover it, because like I can't pretend to like the Direwolf.
Exactly.
And so I reached out to Beef. I'm like, because I'm like, the Dire Star video is hilarious. I'm like, what if I get Beef to collab with me? And so Beef at certain times in the video takes over for me, and there's all these hilarious inside jokes, like you know, in the video stuff from my channel and his. The opening of it, he does the best opening on any video I've ever done, which is where he's just like, "This is the Beef speaking. I can give you secret knowledge that that Red can't." He's like, "For instance, I can actually decipher this Davian report written in their super secret coded language. That's right, French." And he cuts into this promo of like, we sorted out that there's this Davian commander who's feeding his boss bullshit, non-existent. He's like, "We were attacked by a fishing boat. It had 2 arms and was heavily gunned." You know, like, so he's describing it as like a fishing boat, because it's a boat, you know, like you're boating, and like, and it's got like this whole Davian report as he's like reading it in French. He's not translating it, it's in French. And then it cuts to an image of the Direwolf with its core chassis replaced by a fishing boat. Like that's the intro. Like it's so totally different from anything else I've ever produced, but like it was some of the most fun I've ever had putting a video together, because I'm like, man, if I covered the Direwolf like I covered anything else on the channel, it would be like me droning on about how much I can't stand it. It would be like, yeah, and then they figured out to put more guns on it. Yeah, sure did. So I just have to stress, Beef is one of the coolest cats I've ever had the pleasure of getting to engage with at any point.
I never know when he's
amazing guy.
He'll pop in chat and he'll watch my streams, and then he'll pop in, he'll say hello or say a witty comment, and then he just disappears in the wind. And I don't know if he's still watching. I don't know if he's still there, but yeah, he's anytime I've hit him up for a question, he's always been there. But like the creativity of like the Dire Star or that, or you know,
oh, the party back, man.
Yep.
Oh my god, that's one of my favorite videos in battle, like in anything BattleTech related. The party back, like that is so
Dude,
good.
He's so good. He's so good at it. And one, being on the receiving end was hilarious. But because I've had so many people come into my streams. Yeah, and he's been like, "Hey," or they'll be like, "Hey, you know, I saw you in the video, you know, Dire Star video." I'm like, "Oh, thanks.
Years ago, or 14
Appreciate
years
it.
ago.
You know, I've got PTSD from this event. Thanks, bro." But yeah, no, I know we're getting sidetracked because Mech 5, we were talking about Mercs and Clans. We have some hot takes that we need to go over. I need more coffee. Are you okay with just taking a quick 5?
Oh yeah, I'm gonna go grab another pop.
Yeah. I'll be right. If you enjoy this kind of conversation and you want to see more podcasts like this, one of the best ways you can do to directly support what we're doing here at No Guts, No Galaxies by joining the MechBro Battalion over on Patreon. Your support helps me continue bringing people from BattleTech and MechWarrior community onto the show and creating more of this kind of content. So if you enjoy the podcast, consider joining the battalion. Every level of support helps, and it's generally appreciated. Huge thank you to all of our current MechBro Battalion members who are already supporting NGNG. As always, a special shout out to the High Command members, Chad, Jeffrey, McJiggles, Carlson, Dark Rogue, and thank you guys for the continued support. All right, back to the podcast.
Lurking the whole time.
Because if I'm watching on like my TV, I can't interact if I'm not here. I
actually watch a lot of stuff on my television where I'm just lurking because I hate using this.
The only time like I have an office here that's separate from my house. I used to live or have my office in the house. Now I'm separate. So anytime I'm not, I just don't really have as much interaction. But speaking of content creation, I would say, feel free to correct me here. We've got a few unique individuals. One of them, Tex Talks BattleTech. Obviously, Black Pants Legion.
Yeah, Tex is amazing.
That covers BattleTech stuff, but he also covers a wide range of stuff. There's you. I would also point out Sven, Mechanical Frog.
MechFrog, Sven Vanderplank, Tex Talks BattleTech, Baraduel on the MechWarrior side.
Sure, but I'm saying like BattleTech history sort of content, and going back to the Warhammer stuff earlier and sort of the IP we were talking about, I was like, what's unique is that we have a very small group, hardcore group, but you guys are kicking ass, taking names. As far as like, I look at the viewership, I look at your guys' growth as far as your channels. These are all nerd stuff that I like. I looked. How is the IP doing as far as?
Yeah, I do the same stuff.
Yeah,
I do the same thing.
Like just because I'm like, is the audience still there? And it is. And I feel like you guys are actually growing very fast. And I think that's because there's
my growth is not great. My growth is quite slow compared to what it used to be. But it's not because of the BattleTech community. It's because of YouTube.
You think specifically?
So because I release content once a month now, maybe once every 2 months, and YouTube punishes you for that.
It likes a little bit more. Yeah,
it's like you released a 4-hour documentary that 50,000 people watched in the first month. He's basically dead. He died. It's like, no, I just released the video. It's like DEAD, and I actually recognize that, but the problem is like I can't bring myself to make shit I don't care about. Like, so like but just saying that, like, if I followed a formula where I was releasing either weekly content at 15 minutes or bi-weekly content at with 30 minutes, my growth would definitely move up again. Because every time I've done that, because I've had shorter subjects to cover at a few points, I'm like, oh, what do you know? Growth spiked. Because YouTube does not care about the quality of what goes up. They care about the consistency of what goes up.
Yeah, and I think that I don't know if it'll change in the future, but like the algorithm stuff, like people always feel like they know this or that. All I know is that it's improved over the years, and it definitely points you towards what you want to see. Like I'll randomly find stuff that I'm like, click, and then I'll go down a rabbit hole, and I'm like, I never had interest in, refurbishing a Nissan, Z, what was it? Z.
No, dude, refurbishing an original Xbox. That's what it feeds me.
Yeah. But dude, like BattleTech content, we don't have many of you guys, but what I find is you all have different perspectives and takes on stuff, and one thing is you're very knowledgeable about the universe, and we were sort of discussing this on my stream, which is to clarify, when someone says lore, like in lore, as far as BattleTech is concerned, what would be your definition of lore?
So it's complicated too, because you have to understand that things get filtered by different writers and authors. When I say writers, that means source books, authors mean novels. There is a level of consistency in BattleTech you won't find in something like Warhammer. Warhammer, it's all over the place. One book, the Word Bearer, Chaos Space Marine, can't beat a guardsman. Another book, he's literally tearing through the legions of the Imperium, or whatever it happens. Like, it doesn't matter. It's literally written for what it needs to be in that moment. But here's the trick. All of it is written that way. Every story from Marvel to Star Wars to BattleTech, we like to impose these ideas on it, and clever writers. So like one of the most clever things anybody ever wrote was when Akira Toriyama introduced power levels to Dragon Ball, because everyone was trying to justify what happened in the story based off of that power level. But anyone who actually understands how things are made and how reading, like how you actually read those things, the power levels are not there to actually be a concrete thing. They are there for you to feel more engaged as the reader. If Akira Toriyama wants Krillin to kill Frieza, that's just gonna happen. Like, you know, like the justification will come afterwards as to how that happened, but he just wants it to happen, so it does. And if Mike Stackpole wants like what's his name, K. Allard Liao, to kill an entire cluster of clan warriors in a canyon, that's just gonna be what fucking happens. Like, you know, like and so I'm not trying to say that to be like, you know, I'm obviously somebody who's read an enormous amount of material for BattleTech over my life, but I'm just saying that, like, once you have that perspective of things, you begin to realize that things are not as concrete. Like, you know, like people are looking for it to have this indisputable, no, under all circumstances, it will always do this. This is just how it is. That's not really how fiction works. Like, you know, and I'm not saying that like this is how Catalyst publishes stuff or FASA or whatever. I'm saying this is how all publishing, all storytelling kind of works within that bubble. Now, people will strictly adhere to what they set up in some universes more than others. BattleTech is a little bit closer to the stricter side of things. So meaning if you get shot by a particle projection cannon, ain't no plot armor going to stop you from being looking like you've been hit by the Kamehameha wave. You know, it's like, like, you know, like if they decide that that's how your character is going to go out, it's going to be very hard for them to bring that character back later. Like, you know, so there are things like that. And I do, like, you know, they strictly adhere to those certain things. But how the mechs fight, how the mechs move, how the mechs engage, how warships work, etc., it's a little bit more like, well, what does the story need us to say in this particular engagement? You know, again, Aiden Pride knocking out basically a level 3, like a comm fucking battalion, just takes them all down. It's like, that's great on paper, but that's total bullshit. it's something that would never happen. It's like an Abrams with 12 rounds of ammunition knocking out 105 tanks.
Yeah.
It's like, that sounds great, but it has 12. Like, you're gonna have to tell me how this knocked out the extra, 90 fucking tanks here. Without any ammunition left for its cannon.
Well, what you failed to mention is they were in a line, and I was
just through depleted uranium,
and
just right through.
When once, the reason I bring this up is because I find myself, I guess, imparting my world experiences and when I read the novels now, and also some of that is, I am older. I'm not a, teenager. That
cynicism, my friend. Cynicism follows us everywhere.
But just like we talked about the clans, I know I have a very different take on, and maybe this is again not right from my perspective of doing, but I view things.
It's always right from your perspective. It might not like so.
My BattleTech is different than what, like,
that's what I mean. That's what I mean, though.
The clans,
it's your, Yeah, no, but I'm just saying that it's not wrong from your perspective. It's what you read and it's how you interpreted it. Now, that doesn't mean that it's the general consensus of other readers. It doesn't mean that it's the general consensus of the writer or whatever. But you have to remember, at the end of the day, you're the reader. Yeah. So, like, it means, like, we could have a debate about that, and I could feel vindicated in my position or whatever it may have you. But, like, who am I to tell you what you read?
Yeah.
Like, I'm not trying to be contrarian or anything. I'm just being for real about it. It's like, if that's your interpretation of a character or of a society, like, like, genuinely, what am I going to do about that?
Yeah, no, that's like, fair. That's, I get actually what you were saying about clans' difference between mercs as far as gameplay and that. I like I said, that's where, when he asked me, well, what would you do? And I'm like, well, what would you do? And to me, it's like, I look at because he basically, from my understanding, he was basically putting the finger on not blame, but the main reason Clans was not successful was Game Pass. That was basically what I understood. Was that he said 100,000 people played it for free.
So I actually think Game Pass did screw them. So, but it's sort of like what we talked about earlier. There's multiple things that screwed them. Some of them are their own stuff. So just some of it's choices PGI made in terms of game design. I think there's no doubt about that. Some of that was the marketing. So they didn't market it very strongly. But also the more you put into marketing, the more it costs to get the game out there. Yeah. So but just saying the marketing of it was kind of strange. Just like how it was done, I thought was really weird. They basically put stuff out on their own socials. They didn't really branch out significantly enough.
They didn't find new eyeballs.
They didn't find new eyeballs, as it were. But another part of it was obviously Game Pass. Game Pass, I would probably say, is the single biggest thing that screwed them. But again, all of these things screwed them. But here's the other thing that they don't talk about, because it's not awesome to talk about. They released this game in the same time frame as Space Marine 2. Good luck. Yeah. So there's a huge crossover between who would play Space Marine and who would play MechWarrior. And Space Marine 2 was a massive success that sold millions of copies in a very short period of time. And all of those people who would be playing MechWarrior 5 Clans were playing, quite frankly, the better experience of Space Marine 2, because Space Marine 2 is a better game. That doesn't mean that both games aren't good. I like Clans. I think it's a very good game. But is Space Marine 2 going to appeal to a broader player base and absorb all of the noise and attention? Yes. Yeah. And that is exactly what. So I would say the biggest factor was Game Pass. I'm just going to be straight up. He is completely correct in the context of identifying Game Pass as a poisonous thing that hurt his product. The second biggest one, Space Marine 2. The third biggest one, the marketing. And the fourth biggest one, and these are all big, these are not small things, would be just certain choices that they made on how they developed the game. But even if the game was 5 times better, even if it engaged with things we'd never seen before in MechWarrior, it was going to be drowned out by Game Pass, and it was going to be drowned. So if you took 2 of any of those 4 things out of the equation, the game would have performed better.
You know what? The problem I have is doing podcasts. You always, as soon as you're done, or you're like, oh, I should have asked this. I should have asked him. Well, did you not know your deal with, to me now I can ask that, because I'm like, you or EG7 or both of you should have known.
He actually answered that in the interview, because he said that they were on Game Pass before, but they didn't see Game Pass translate into a decline in sales.
Because the game would already been out, and it was DLCs.
So they were looking at the wrong data. They were looking at data.
So they fucked up. So they fucked up.
Oh yeah, for the record, part of this is them fucking up. Yeah. There's no doubt about it. But I'm just saying that he did answer that honestly. He was like, hey, look, in prior games, this was not an issue, but also because Game Pass wasn't as big as it was when they had prior releases. Yeah. And
that makes sense too, because Mercs was released on Epic, and then Game Pass Steam, was just and then it goes to Game Pass, and you even if you would be buying DLCs at that point, so they made all their money, right? Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, so good catch there. He did clarify that, I guess, but you brought...
I'm turning into a huge Rust defender here, and I'm not.
No. This is why I asked him those questions, because some people are like, they want gotcha comments. I'm like, first off, good fucking luck being a podcaster or interviewer if you're just gonna be a douchebag to people. Good luck with that. You can do it. It's YouTube. You go. Good luck with that. You brought up something that caught my attention a second ago. You made an analogy earlier to Mech 2, Mech 3, Mech 4 gameplay, and you said that the bar really isn't that much higher. It's always been giga drilling and so forth, and that's
because that's what. But the missions aren't designed for you to giga drill stuff. So this is what I'm saying is the developers, whether it's Facet Interactive, whether it's been no,
I get that. My point was, you then brought up there's better games. That's one of my problems I have is I've played other games since Mech 2, Mech 3, Mech 4, and even MWO, and that's where I have a problem with mercs and clans, which is it's like you're not evolving. We have better things over here, and you're not
StarCraft
evolving
anymore. Do you know that? I love StarCraft. I love the world of StarCraft. I can't play StarCraft, and not because like I'm a noob or whatever. It's because I started playing Company of Heroes, and once I started playing Company of Heroes, I could never look at it. Ruined it. Now you know what got me out of Warhammer 40,000 as a game? I still collected miniatures, but I just couldn't play the game anymore. I started playing Bolt Action, which is a World War II tabletop skirmish game, and as a skirmish game, because Warhammer 40,000 is basically a skirmish game, Bolt Action is such a better game on every single way at every single level that I went back trying to play Warhammer 40,000. I'm like, this game sucks. Like, I don't actually enjoy the game.
And you find yourself you find yourself wanting those things in that game, and
yes, and they'll never happen.
And it'll never happen. Yep.
You know, like, and so like, or it will take decades for it to happen, which is irrelevant. So like, you know, at the end of the day, I can see that with video games too. Now, for video games, I am more forgiving because video games are more transactional than a tabletop game. That sounds weird, but tabletop games require enormous amounts of investment. They require you painting armies. They require you building your own lists. They require you going to a physical location, sitting down and playing with another human being. So these represent hours and hours and hours and hours more investment to do than just sitting down in front of a screen and having the screen do stuff for you for a short period of time. Now, you can invest as much time into a video game as you do into a tabletop game, but the bare minimum to do tabletop versus the bare minimum to do a video game is divergent in a very big way from one another. So for my tabletop games, I am absolutely a total jerk if it is not, it has to be good enough to draw me to the table. It has to be good enough to justify me painting an army. It has to be good enough to justify me going out on a trip and sitting down with people and playing that in person. A video game, while I will be a cynical, critical asshole, I'm just not willing, like, I'm more willing to be a bit more forgiving on a video game because I'm like, well, it was $60, which is the same price as like 2 stars. and I am able to sit down and play this video game for 20 hours. And if that's the only investment I ever put into it, I got my $60 back. Whereas, you know, for a tabletop game, it's like, well, I put $60 into this game, which means I just started an army and I'm now $300 deep. The army is finished. I then spent about 160 hours painting the army. You know, like you start seeing, like, so when it comes to tabletop, because it is such an inordinately larger task, if that game sucks, go fuck yourself.
Yeah.
Like, if your game sucks.
So you're saying there's a monetary contingent to there because you're going to spend more money on that. Then there's a time also. And then there's also objectively, I guess, do you enjoy it as much? And if you don't, so you got like 3 criteria there that like you don't have to invest as much in a digital game. You don't have to, you don't like it, you can just, you know, play 2, 3, 4 hours and you're done. Okay, I can see that. Yeah.
So like, you know, for me, if the tabletop game is not good, that is a huge sin. That is a huge sin. If like, because, you know, that is, I genuinely think the tabletop market is the most competitive game market to be in the sense of like how tough that market is. Because like, again, you're expecting people to dump an enormous amount of time of their lives into doing these things. It's got to be good enough to justify them doing it.
I want to talk about tabletop, but before we move to that,
let's go back to video games. I
want to ask you, hot take. Tell me why Perez was not wrong.
I mean, well, so first of all, I'm actually a Smoke Jaguar fan.
I know you said that. I was like,
So you have to understand the best part about Clan Smoke Jaguar all starts in its origins. So do you know who founded Clan Smoke Jaguar?
I don't. Tell us.
It's a man named Franklin Osis. So Franklin Osis was actually basically a criminal along with his brother, not because they were inherently criminals, but it just in the Star League's Exodus fleet to survive at a certain point as everything started breaking down. Him and his brother basically ran gangs and like other illicit activities in order to acquire resources. And Kerensky eventually rehabilitated these people. Now, Nicholas Kerensky rehabilitating people is, I mean, like at the time this was written, it can be taken in the context of, oh, he was benevolently, helping these people. In reality, like we now know that Nicholas Kerensky was like a sociopath who like basically would kill his own brother to get ahead. So he actually took these people on because they were a mold of survival of the fittest, which he really wanted to see happen. And so the two brothers ended up on Stronamecti, and they had released an animal into the ecosystem called the Smoke Jaguar, which was the most aggressive, basically hunter on the planet. And a Smoke Jaguar ambushed Franklin Osis's brother. Now, these two guys were suffering from post-traumatic stress disorder, and they were trying to find themselves in nature. They were trying to heal themselves. And Franklin watches his brother be brutally murdered by the Smoke Jaguar in front of his eyes. He's unable to save him. He draws his knife and he stabs the Smoke Jaguar to death in mortal combat after doing this. And Franklin actually found he enjoyed killing the Smoke Jaguar, and he understood that the Smoke Jaguar represented strength, but most of all, he realized that violence is actually the answer to all of life's problems. So the thing I loved about Cordero Perez doing that is in Clan Smoke Jaguar, at the end of the day, so all of the other clans innovated. Now, Clan Smoke Jaguar did a bit of innovation throughout their time, but they rarely innovated. Do you know what happened if Clan Smoke Jaguar needed new mechs?
They just go take them from someone else?
They just go fucking take them from somebody else. Oh, you developed a cool new technology? The Smoke Jaguar showed up and were just as violent as possible until they received the technology that they required.
You could argue, and this is why I love BattleTech, because all I hear you basically saying is this is the human condition story and history just playing on itself. Because how I look at it is, if you're going to war, you go full out. There's no rules. I know this is gonna, and that's what the Jaguars say is like.
But in the clans there are rules, and the Jaguars follow the rules, but they don't follow the spirit of those rules.
Yeah, but if you use enough violence to where your enemy just won't make war again, like that's what.
Well, no, but they want their enemies to make war again
because of the clans. Yes,
yes.
But if you were to unleash the Jaguars just on their own, like. Your nature?
No, but here's the thing. That's what destroyed Clan Smoke Jaguar. So the reason why I love Clan Smoke Jaguar is also because they died because of it. So why were they singled out by the Inner Sphere? Because they were such assholes. And so the Inner Sphere is like, we're going to fucking make an example of somebody. They looked at the Jade Falcons and they were like, maybe. They look at the Smoke Jaguars and you can just see Victor and Karita just start nodding. Yeah, fuck those guys. And so, I love Clan Smoke Jaguar also because they stayed true to who they were.
They held to their principles, yep.
They held to their principles the whole way through. They were like, hey guys, the apocalypse is descended upon us. What should we do? We will fight them on the beaches.
Yeah, it's funny because like when you read the novel, like on Turtle Bay, of like what, I forgot what novel it is. Is it?
Like, just to clarify, I'm also a fan of the Word of Blake. So, but I just mean that for some people, they only want to be a fan of the good guys.
No.
And
there is no good guys.
No, but I like a broad swathe of stuff. Like my favorite faction is the Free Worlds League. My second favorite faction is the Combine. My third is the Federated Sons. There's actually only two factions in the whole game I don't like. Like in the whole, like everybody, there's some degree of like, oh, that's at the very least interesting, or oh, that's amazing.
I'm gonna guess Clan Wolf and Davian.
No, I love Deviant. As I said, the Federated Sons is one of my favorite.
But Clan Wolf.
You did get Clan Wolf is definitely one of them. The other one is the Sea Foxes. And not because of I actually used to love the Diamond Sharks. It's like the current iteration of Clan Seafox is just intolerable.
Gotcha. I'm not up to date yet on the new stuff, the Ill Clan and all that yet. And I'm working towards
And,
that.
I loved the Seafoxes even during the Dark Age, so it's a very recent turn. Like, so I'm sure in 5 or 10 years I will have a different opinion on the Seafoxes as more stuff comes out. But like as right now,
Clans, Perez was the best character.
Oh, he was amazing.
The most believable. I didn't like Jaden. I didn't like his whole Sibco. I just couldn't. I didn't buy it.
I bought it. I bought it because even though they're brutal in the Sibcos to each other, they still try, even in Clan Smoke Jaguar, they still try to instill people early on with idealism. So if you're going to have people kill each other, especially when growing up, and you want them to be malleable on the way through, you have to give them an idea that they're doing all of these terrible things for a greater purpose.
Yep.
And so like Jaden and his star still have they did not end up, and I actually give Chris Lowry a lot of credit for this, figuring out how this star would be at least plausible. They're graduating just as the clan invasion is getting started. They don't have that extra 5 years of tempering inside of Clan Smoke Jaguar to make them like, you'll note all the other Jaguar characters are scumbags. All of them. And like
they weren't exposed to that.
They didn't get to that point right away. And what I love about it and what they did is they show them descending into becoming that. And then you make that choice because they are becoming like their superiors as the story goes on. But you give them that choice to the player agency of like, do they continue down this dark path, or does Jaden realize what path he's going down, and does he make a choice to make a change?
Maybe. And I think it's soft. I think it's PG. I think
I think it's the only way that they could tell a story like that would be for a broader audience. We talked about the broader audience.
Sure.
But I also think they're a plausible unit. I think that it's a very specific way to get that unit to be plausible, but a lot of people are like, oh, that's just not what they would do. It's like, that's not entirely true.
But if you were going for a broader audience, you wouldn't do the clans in general because everything's so alien.
The most successful game in BattleTech history was about the clans. And so you see, remember we talked about this before, the trap of MechWarrior 2.
The trap, yes.
And so I want to
Can you describe the trap? Because we talked about it on stream.
The trap of MechWarrior 2 is believing that MechWarrior 2 is replicatable. It's believing that you can take the elements that created the success of MechWarrior 2, pile them into a game, and release a game in 2025 or 2026 or 2030 or whenever that will have some measurable level of the same respect as MechWarrior 2. And I would argue by the time MechWarrior 3 came out, that window of success was already closed.
And why? Why?
So there's a lot of reasons why. First of all, sim games be dropped in popularity. So if you take a look from 1989 to like 1997, sim games were fucking huge. If you released a sim game, there was like a meaningfully large audience. Like, oh, it's a simulator. Wow, I can simulate something different in my computer than I can do in real life. Oh my God. And you can note that sim games as a percentage of the audience, of like the percentage of games, started to really dip in the late 90s, and then you barely hear about simulator games outside of things shit like Goat Simulator now, which is like a joke sim game.
Is that the rise of the console as well?
Part of it's the rise of the console, but part of it's just a change in the culture. Sure. So like, you can remember how long platformers weren't popular. Like, platformers were made by Super Mario, like one of the most iconic figures in gaming history. But, for a long time there, platformers were very niche. There's that word. Oh, no, not the word. But now platformers are huge again. So there is a degree of cyclicalness of this. I'm sure simulators will become popular again in 5 years or whatever. And maybe you could get some more success trying to do but not meaningfully enough. I'm just saying that, like, you have a change in the gaming culture. B, you have much greater competition.
Yep.
So the gaming industry as itself grows. As it grows, you get better games coming out. You get more competitive games coming out. You get things that draw people's attention much more readily. And as a result, it just becomes harder to basically put out the same thing you did before. It's like the North American car industry back in the 80s when they started getting their lunch taken by all these other foreign car companies, especially once you go into the 90s. It's just like, oh man, how are these foreign cars, doing better? It's like, well, they're innovating. So they're doing other things.
They're innovating. Then the national ones were being complacent because, oh, we're the top dogs. So yes. I'm going to say hot take. I agree with everything you said about Mech 2. And hot take here is, I think that the reason it was successful is because it was like the first on the scene. It was a milestone of holy crap as far as technology, 3-dimensional, and just this cool sim stuff like that. And I think that because we were saying this in chat, that everybody tries to chase that, and everybody uses it as like, hey, we just need to be going back. And I'm like, no, it's not going to happen.
Do you ever watch South Park?
No, but yes, I know South Park.
So they had an episode where they were chasing the dragon. Like, come on, you can catch me. And it's a video game where you're hitting yourself with heroin. And there's this little dragon. The more heroin you do, the closer to the dragon you get. That is basically what every developer has done since MechWarrior 2 came out.
So
you can come get me. Oh, you're almost there. Oh, you almost got me.
So is that the trap though? Is like, not only are you trying to do that, is like what MechWarrior is, and this is where I go back to like customization, the lack of innovation. I mean, it's like, to me, I feel like, for instance, Mech 4 moved away from Mech 2 and Mech 3 were just basically tabletop build rules on your screen. You could do whatever you want.
Which was hilarious.
Which is
and some people want, like, my favorite one of the old hats who were just like,
oh my
that
God.
is how it needs to be.
Dude, you want to talk about boating. So then, to me, and I didn't understand this at the time, Mech 4 diverged from it. Now I can look back and say, yes, from a design standpoint,
people were outraged when Mech 4
I was like, this isn't that's not my Timberwolf. It doesn't have this build, blah, 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 blah. And then now as an adult looking back and be like, okay, I see what they did. They were removing shit that is just pointless. But then also, hey, you have different variants, you have different play styles, different builds.
You're also giving people a reason to go after certain designs,
different stuff.
Yes,
and Atlas isn't going to have 12 VR mediums, just like a whatever. Like, it's just, and so what you're really talking about is,
but also you're also adding it in, so there's certain weapon sizes, meaning that you're limiting how many weapons can go on a mech. So you're also preventing certain types of boating as well.
Controlled power, for the player in different dynamics, and then MWO comes along and says, hey, we really like that, but then they reintroduce the slot system. I've said this from the start. MWO was a step forward, and then it took 2 steps back because it just reintroduced the puzzle, this weird, stupid, like, people are like so obsessed with like putting ammo in legs and blah, blah, blah. I'm like, look, guys.
Dude, you know what? A real man takes their king crab, they put 6 AC2s on it, and they go out there.
I just, like, so there's certain things that to me, you probably didn't see it, but I've done review videos on the Clans games. But I talked about the Mech Lab. They recreated Mech 4, but they just have a little bit of extra steps. Like, go in there and they have these extra.
It's very similar to Mech 4. I had no problem with the Mech Lab in 5 Clans.
But they added extra things that didn't need to be there. And then now the latest Clans, it's a clusterfuck. And I'm like, how much of this is influenced by the consoles? They have to design a certain way. And I'm like, look, guys. And people are like, oh, it's not like Mech 4. I'm like, am I in fucking Bizarro world?
So,
like, what do you?
I want to tell you right now, it's not exactly the same as Mech 4, but it is close enough to Mech 4's Mech Lab that it functionally is.
Yeah, but they're like, I want to be able to add heat sinks here or do this. I'm like, it's literally a touch of a button. All this extra bullshit, that's all it is from a design. Like, do you not understand that that's just, it's not you're thinking it's a meaningful thing to do.
It's sort of like what I said before about power levels, where people think they matter or they think this thing certain is done in a certain way, but it's really just there to convince you that something is happening.
Yeah, and then there's the disconnect between. I remember the cutscene where they're talking about the Ibn Jaguar, and they're like, "Oh, it's a powerful heavy known for this and blah blah blah." But the problem is, you say that, and in lore that may be true, but in a gameplay where you've put these rules and restrictions and these things,
I love using the Ibn Jag. What are you talking about? It's one of my favorite mechs in that game.
The Timberwolf's just better. So
yeah, because you're playing. Yeah, it's a 75-ton mech versus a 65-ton mech.
I'm just saying.
What's this? A heavier mech with more firepower is a better mech. Well, like, oh, I'm so shocked.
But that's the nature of the beast when it comes to games and rules, and when it's what mechs are that they've never is their characters. They're like and that's where sort of quirks come in.
I mean, I actually talk about the mechs as though they're characters when I review them.
Yeah.
Like, if like what people don't realize is, like, in my videos, I basically use the mech as a character in the story of BattleTech.
Yep.
Where, like, I try to include them and what they go through and who's building them and why, but I also try to give them like a persona related to what they are.
Yeah.
Like, because that's how people develop a connection with things. We talk about things as characters, like that's what humans have done since before the written word. Like, we tell stories because we tell stories about characters. Well, if we're going to tell the story of a mech and how it's used in the universe, then that mech has to become a character. It can't just be a spreadsheet you talk about.
Yeah I mean, and the dynamics between like an Apache and a Cobra, they're both helicopters, but vastly different everything basically about them. I mean, that yes, they're helicopters, but like, what are they? They have different attributes as far as targeting systems. This literally has a different HUD system, blah, blah, blah.
Of course.
And, payload capacities, what it can do versus this. And, why would you choose this over this? And
quite literally even different software.
Yeah.
like people don't understand a modern weapon system is a unique platform that has a series of options that can be installed by the operator, and it needs to have software, hardware, servicing staff, and like, to get a modern system to work, it requires enormous infrastructure.
Yeah,
it's not like just handing somebody a Kalashnikov.
Yeah. Obviously, game wise, I could see where everything's streamlined, but sometimes I do wish, like, even in MWO, like, I wish you would have had different HUDs and different, systems and stuff. That's just one of those things.
So I talked to a bunch of the developers who do the designs for mechs, and they lament the fact that certain manufacturers were given such wildly different visual designs. Because back in the day when they were making BattleTech, they didn't think about this in 1986. They didn't think about this in 1980. They think more about it now, but way back in the day, they didn't. So, like, Calon Industries makes the Wolverine and the Jaeger mech. The Wolverine and the Jaeger mech have no common language design. But in a world that we know makes more plausible sense, even if the Jaeger mech has a completely different role, they would be borrowing ideas from their other products to include. That's why, like, in modern military hardware, a lot of modern military hardware, regardless of the country, regardless of the company, let alone the country that makes it, there's a lot of common design language that goes into everybody's individual products, because they're learning from their own materials. They're not just learning from other people's materials. They're trying to adapt things to the production lines that they already have. So that means you don't, like, like even in terms of HUDs, like what you're talking about, a HUD between different manufacturers would be similar. The same manufacturer would be similar. So if you have a mech that is designed by Clan Seafox, because the clans themselves are all insular, all of the Seafox HUDs would be very similar, because they're a Seafox HUD, because it's, they're just going to drop it in there. This is what we have. This is what we're putting in. All of the designs by Defiance Industries in terms of HUDs would be very similar, because again, Defiance Industries, even if you have a different targeting tracking system, even if you have a different communication system, the actual software and shit like that they're going to develop for their own mechs to be used internally is going to be consistent. They're going to have a consistent language for who they're even giving to these products to be like, oh, you know, you're in a Defiance mech because of how we do our HUD so much better than everyone else. Like,
it's like almost if you looked at the like logistics of like current companies and then you projected that out, like a Ford motor company, how many parts or potential parts are shared between the different F-150s, or are there any other bushings that are shared between the Explorers and F-150s?
And they do this more in modern BattleTech. So ever since like the Dark Age, they've tried to do this more and more. I'm just talking about on the video game side of things. Now, there's a reason why you wouldn't do that. A, because of player experience. Some people would avoid mechs just because they don't like the HUDs on certain mechs. B, cost.
So
like, you know,
I think
like,
that's number one right now.
I'm just saying going through the, you know, like, I'm not saying in order of priority.
That makes sense.
But it's going to remember how I mentioned earlier, people got angry that they had cold weather on the East Front in their East Front video game, and so it's the same thing that applies to the HUD. It's the same thing that applies to getting knocked over. It's the same thing that applies to these things. So it's like, this coffee is mildly cold.
So what is the answer to that? That's what's tough is like, as you as a content creator, if you found out that people wanted more direwolf and you're like, fuck, do you just say, no, I'm just not doing
I do.
As a company, you know, like, what do you do?
So for 4 years, I did not make any Clan Wolf content on the channel. After I made 2 Clan Wolf videos, I'm like, fuck this garbage. I'm not even going to bother I'm not even going to bother. If people want that, they can go somewhere else. My Timberwolf video talks about Clan Jade Falcon. It's fucking hilarious because I'm like, we're going to make this video about Aiden Pride. Fuck this. And so you know, the whole video is building up to Aiden Pride. I had so many people in the comments like, I was expecting Clan Wolf content. You gave me Jade Falcon content. I'm like, don't worry, I gave you some better content. That's all you got to worry about. But like, and for the record, that, like, you know, I would have had better views on several videos if I deep dove into doing Clan Wolf for those particular things. I am now covering it because I am doing a huge, like, 18 to 24 month grand project that unfortunately relies on Clan Wolf being discussed. So like, they are getting more coverage on the channel as of this year. You know, but actually, to be honest, production on those videos is slow because like, I got to be like, how do I even digest this without not just like being an asshole the entire time I'm making this video? Like, how do I do this without being completely sardonic? So because the audience will know, the audience will know. It's like, wow, this guy's fucking, and I didn't get much of that with the last one, but it takes a few extra weeks to like make sure that you're not just running something over. But I didn't do that for years, despite what I knew would be better in terms of my metrics, that would be better for me as a content creator. I chose not to because I felt I would only be an asshole. And I wasn't wrong. But I will say, just as a quick side tangent, the funniest thing I ever did on my channel is when I did my Death of Comstar video, I briefly talked about the Battle of Fortukiad. I'm like, some of the participants in the Battle of Tukiad were Clan Diamond Shark, Jade Falcon, Ghost Bear, Steel Viper, Nova Cat, and oh god, so Diamond, Smoke Jaguar, and like all these comments started to come in. It's like, hey, you didn't mention Clan Wolf. I said some of the participants, and one guy's like, you literally said every other clan except for Clan Wolf. I'm like, that still encompasses some. I only ever did that in one video, but it was fun. Like the response, like, I love it. It's like, hey, wait a minute.
You didn't say that. Yeah.
I'm like, but I did make sure that it was prefaced in the video. Some of the clans in the battle.
Okay, so speaking of the lore and tabletop and Clan Wolf and all the things, obviously Clan Invasion Kickstarter wildly successful, and then the follow-up Mercs even bigger. And obviously I did a podcast with Randall, and he said there will be
Randall's the best.
He said there will be another Kickstarter. It looks like they're sort of using it to help launch products, which makes sense.
It's also the marketing.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Yeah. Get out there.
Like, what people don't understand is, like, Kickstarter is an enormously helpful marketing tool, more so than just crowdfunding. Like, they can make products. There's no problem with them making products, but how do you get eyeballs on those products?
Yes.
How do you know? And so Kickstarter just works for that.
Yeah, and he did mention that there won't be one this year, but 2027, I think. 2028.
2027, 2028 is
that's when I would,
for approximately when I've heard. Yeah.
So there's been a lot of changes that have happened. I made a very quick video covering their sort of announcements not too long ago. How are you feeling about the changes? Because, man, there are some lines in the sand. Some people are like,
some people are melting.
You know?
Some people are melting down over it. I've made videos on it. I generally think it's actually quite positive because it reflects how people actually play BattleTech. Like, one of the things that people don't understand, I think Randall mentioned it when you had him on here, is he went around the world and he saw how people played BattleTech. Yep. He actually engaged with how all of these communities played BattleTech. And I know, because I talk to Ray all the time, what their design philosophy was behind this, which is to make BattleTech reflect how people actually play it. And for every, like, and this is not to say every single as soon as you say anything, every individual person will of course come out.
No
and go,
generalization.
Well, I play it differently.
Yes.
It's like, but look, I'm just going to be blunt. How often have you played tabletop BattleTech?
Me?
Yeah.
I played a lot when I was a teenager, so I haven't played a whole lot since.
So I'm going to throw it down for you. People love the idea of having vehicles on their tabletop. They love the idea of having infantry on their tabletop. But they don't actually use them because the rules don't engage well with the game. So, like, just to be blunt, just to be totally, like, frank about it, and, like, I don't mind the vehicle rules, but the vehicle rules add an extra layer of extra things that you have to memorize for each category of vehicle, even whether it's wheeled or tracked. Like, there are extra depth to the game, which is great for someone who wants a war game where them and their friends sit down over the weekend and play for, like, 30 hours. I love that. Like, just, I know it sounds like I'm being a douchebag to it, but it's just, that's not how most people actually engage with the game. Most people engage with the game through taking a lance or star or two lances and fighting it out over several map sheets or over a neoprene mat or over a 3D terrain piece that they've put together. And they fight, and the reason why they don't use these extra assets is because they slow the game down and they're there for the mechs. This to be blunt, people play MechWarrior because you play in a fucking mech. So what they have done is they have stripped out a lot of the stuff and generalized it. So you have the battlefield support system that basically now encompasses most of the materials that are not mechs.
But Big Red, that means they're dumbing it down because, new kids nowadays can't just handle the complexities.
No, it has nothing to do with that. It's just to make the system actually, like, meaningfully work. Like, I'll just be like, and again, I've played Total Warfare at a high level, like, where everybody's running, hovercraft and they're
you can still do that. That's my point that I was making. You can still do that.
You can still do that. But it's just, the reference numbers no longer work. So the previous ecosystem, if I pick up Total Warfare, it makes references to, like, tactical ops, it makes references to the BattleTech manual or whatever, and those all have specific page numbers. Well, those have been replaced by the new core rulebook. So so it is possible to take the new rules and kind of jerry rig them with Total Warfare if you want to, but it is a lot more work than before, where you would just have the specific citations, specific things and references to these other products that were built to adapt with Total Warfare. Now, they are going to be releasing more complex modules. Like, I've like we've had Ray on my stream talk about this, where the current core rules are designed to eventually have modules slot into them. You want more aerotech, this adds in more in-depth aerotech. You want more in-depth city fighting, this adds in more in-depth city fighting. You want more granular and deep infantry and vehicle combat, this one you slot it in and you can have that. But the core rules are there to be what you would use if you were going to play a pickup game, if you're going to play in a tournament, if you're going, like, these are the rules where everybody knows what's down. There's no extra additional weight, if you will, added that might be burdensome or cumbersome to how the game is played. Just when you're just playing the game, just when you're like, look, I don't want to sit down with my friends for 12 hours over a two-day period this weekend. I just want to play a 2-3 hour game. That's what the core rules are really there for, which is the most common way. I have to I know that not everyone wants to hear this. It is the most common way they're played, because that's what Randall observed. That's what, a CGL observed through play testing, through feedback from their community teams, through talking to players, through doing play testing. That is, like, they aimed this thing basically at, like, this is how it's played, and it's still the core rules. Like, it's still the rules as they were in 1984. These are not that different. There's a few changes here and there, like, oh, ammo explosions don't take your mech out. I don't like that. I actually wish ammo explosions were just as brutal as before. But at the end of the day, one rule going awry is not going to have me be like, they ruined BattleTech. My mech didn't explode when they hit my LRM ammo. Worst fucking game ever.
Well, my pushback is you could still just play the old rules where you're, like, how you want to do it. That's
absolutely.
That's what I when I put out that video, man, the comments were all over the place. You had white knighting, you had black knighting, you had people that were like, I don't really care. You had people that were like, hey, I was part of the playtesting, and actually some of these rules were actually really helpful.
Yeah, some people would call me a white knight for what I just said there. It's not the intention. I've just played dozens of tabletop games.
How about I'll take a stance here. Everything could be true or not true depending on, like, you can like a certain thing and not like, because for me, you literally said something, and I saw this on my Discord. Someone was like, we sat down lance on lance or whatever because I wanted a quick game or whatever. Time matters to people, man. Like, yeah. Like, and I don't understand the hatred for, like, aces, Alpha Strike. And to me, it's like, guys, like, there's a time and place. There's a time and place for a huge combat, whatever, and that may take you forever. But, like, do you have time for that? Like, I don't have time for it. I have I have almost a 4-year-old. I don't have time. I don't have spare time. I have none. I have zero. So, like, my, like, it'll be a little bit different, a little bit. But my point being is, maybe I have an hour. Maybe I have 2 hours. Maybe when my kid turns 5, I'm going to introduce her to Alpha Strike, so I can start getting her. There's nothing wrong with that. Or maybe we just really like that and we don't really ever want to do a full, like,
and Alpha Strike is its own game too. Like, there's a ton, like, I think that
it's not an either or. I feel like sometimes people dig in their heels and they're like, it's like,
oh no, it's a different game that, like, I like both. I've played both. I'm not as enthralled with Alpha Strike as I am with Classic, but I don't think, like, I wouldn't, if someone walked over and was like, hey, let's play some Alpha Strike, I'm not going to be like, oh, Alpha Strike and not Classic. Like, who cares? It's still fun.
Yeah.
Like,
So Catalyst Game Labs, BattleTech, I think it's in a good spot.
I think it's in a great spot. As an actual game, I think the game is at the most playable level it's ever been at, while still having the complexity of mech combat.
Okay,
I think that
I'm going to put you on the spot. What's a hot take that you think is a problem at the moment?
In what, and where? In tabletop or in video games, or
just right now with the BattleTech in general? What's a hot take that, like, out there?
Releases are slow. So, like, one of the things Games Workshop does that's really great is they have a release schedule that is pretty reliable, that will have a constant feed of news basically happening for people. And it doesn't have to be something big, but it's stuff that will remind you that the game is there. So the biggest hot take I have is that like, and like for this is, you know, people will be like, he's being critical. It doesn't matter. Like the core rules coming out this year is great, but the core rules have sucked all the oxygen out of the room for other releases on the lead up to the core rules, which means that people who are into BattleTech just have less to look forward to outside of the core rules. Novel releases have not been super fast this year. There's been some novellas that have come out. I think there's been like one novel that came out this year, but novels, realistically, if you look at the Black Library schedule, and again, I'm not talking about comparing these things, a $6 billion company to a multi-million dollar company, but I'm just saying that like they have a machine that puts out literature at a certain rate to keep people in that ecosystem. And I don't expect that to be entirely replicatable by any of the license holders, but they should learn from it in the context of learning that you need an assembly line of content out there to keep people engaged and to expand the bubble.
Yeah, I don't think you could expect the same scale, but I think what you could do is you could take the, so, you know, maybe
what can you do to make an assembly line?
And also, what can you do? Like, literally meaning what is possible with the resources
to
you
hand.
have. Yeah.
And so like that would be the main criticism I have right now that's a hot take, is that it's not organized enough. It's not organized enough. Releases are a little bit too far apart. There's no consistency in what those releases look like, in the sense of like, oh, you'll just get a force pack at a certain point. That's great. I want more force packs, but like there should be like, okay, so every quarter are we going to, like, they should have like, what are our quarterly releases? And what can we do to make sure that there's consistency in what those quarterly releases look like, and how we convey that information to the public in a way that keeps them constantly re-engaged with the property, to basically make sure that like, and like this is my business hat on, so
sure.
like like that would be my biggest critique at the moment, is there's a lack of consistency. And now we're still getting more releases than we've had in forever, so I'm not saying that like there's no releases or anything. My critique is like there should be a plan for a certain duration of time, that things are talked about, promoted, and engaged with the community in a way for them to look forward to future releases, and for them to be interested and enticed for more.
Yeah, and I think some of that, I think you said, like Randall sent me a box of the stuff that's coming up,
yep.
and like,
and that's great, and like that's great that they do like, stuff like that.
Yeah, me talking about it on stream, or you making a dedicated video covering it. I think that's a great way. I've reached out to him to talking about this very subject, because like it almost takes this. Yeah, it almost takes, hey, Big, let's talk about the new box set. What's in it? What's different? You know, why is this guy? And to me, I always look at, and this is something that Darren, I think, helped me is if you have a question, that usually means there's a void. And instead of saying, hey, Catalyst, why aren't you doing it? Hey, we've been asking this for, to me as a content creator, I look at it as that's an opportunity. Like,
yeah, absolutely.
My mindset is just like, instead of me sitting here bitching and complaining about something that like maybe it is literally one, it's out of my control per se, but also maybe out of theirs. Well, that's just an opportunity to say, okay, let's cover that said topic. Let me reach out to.
But I'm being critical of it in the sense of it's a hot take.
Oh, I asked
like,
you. Yeah, that's hot take, video game. Piranha Games.
Oh boy. Can you imagine if the rest of this podcast just ends up being like, Phil, you're just in there like, look, I've been waiting to get this off my chest for years.
Dude, I've talked so much. I've talked so much shit sometimes. I've been drunken and said things that I almost got us fired so many times. Like, it was a problem. Trust me, I am fully aware.
Just flicking bottle caps at the box. Do you remember? Huh?
Yeah,
do you remember Faction Play flicks another bottle cap?
No. But I don't think Piranha Games is the company that's going to take the IP forward. I think Piranha Games is going to maintain what they have. And but even then, I think it's very loose right now on their fingertips. I'll just say
I
that.
think so. So I think two things. I think first of all, I don't think there's any other company that will swoop in to pick it up.
That's true.
So like just 100%. And like people have to understand, like it's one of the most frustrating things. And like this is not me. Like I buy shit because I want to buy it. I didn't buy Wolves of Tukiad. I didn't engage with it because it's a story I super didn't want to play through. I was like, this is not why I'm here. I did not support the release, not because I think, PGI bad or whatever. It's just like, this is just not what I want. And I will never buy a product because I feel obligated to buy that product.
I see that sentiment happen on Reddit a lot on BattleTech. Like, oh, why didn't you buy it or buy it to support?
Now, for the record, it is true in the context of like, when people say, oh, but if this company gets out of this, we will probably not have a replacement, that both can be true at the same time, in the sense of like it is true that if you don't end up buying it, if this goes away, it's unlikely to come back.
Doesn't that put the onus on the customer?
No, but it's whether it puts the onus on the customer or not. I'm just saying it's a true fact.
Okay, that's fair.
I'm not saying that
objectively, yes.
Objectively, but I point out that like it has to be worth my time anyway. Why do I want to support something at a certain point if it's not going to make something interesting to me? So like, I don't just support things out of nostalgia. So like if I like a PGI game, I buy the PGI game because I'm interested in what they're putting out. If I'm not interested in it, I ain't fucking buying it, even if it puts the video game side of the IP potentially in a precarious situation. Not because I'm desiring that to be the outcome, but I'm like, well, things die if they're not successful.
Yeah, I guess I'm just elaborating on some of the behavior I see on like Reddit of white knighting of like, oh, well, if you don't support, I'm like, yeah, but I also have a hot take of, I feel like a lot of you guys are willing to continually drop money on mediocre content because you're so afraid.
If something's not good enough, I just don't play it.
I know, but I feel like that's a hot take here, is like, I feel like some of you guys, actually, I think a lot of people are so scared. They're so afraid of it going away.
Well, because realistically, let's again.
I'm not arguing that, but I'm like, is that a good? That's a dangerous game to play.
But what I'm saying is that like, if BattleTech is important enough to you that you're willing to play a version of BattleTech that you don't enjoy, that would be just like. I would just question that. Like, and I would,
sure.
Like at the end of the day, if somebody doesn't like the new core rules and they're big mad about it, I mean, like at a certain point, like, what are you going to do about it? You can play older versions of the game, or you can just not choose to engage with it. Like that's like, you should not feel obligated to do so. It's the same thing with MechWarrior. If you're just not into it with MechWarrior, it's like, guys, MechWarrior 4 is not coming back.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you see what I mean, right? Like, it's just like that page is turned. And if you're worried that like there won't be a MechWarrior 6 or there won't be a continuation, then that's just what it is. Like, there's no need to panic about it. You might feel disappointed about it, but I promise if something like that happens, it just is what it's going to be. And I just don't. So the big reason why I don't think another company will come in to pick it up is because of the lack of the ability to monetize the product. So and the reason why is because the IP is divided, and because all these dragons sit on their roost and are unlikely to disembark it. Even if one sells, the others won't. So like you just end up being in this situation where you can't have a unified IP without over investing in it, without putting more money into it than the actual IP is worth. So like if you wanted to buy all these IPs out and unify them, could you generate the revenue to justify you doing that? Probably not. Or it would be an uphill, long-term investment. But in the games industry, that doesn't exist, because you're better off just making your own IP that you can maximally monetize.
You don't hear of any
gate.
Billionaire just love an IP, buy it, and spend however much,
because they're looking at the money. They're just looking at like, well, how much would I have to put into this versus what I'll get out, and if I put the same money somewhere else, would I get a better return?
Well, I also feel like the difficult thing is IP. Piranha Games, any company I should say, 30% off the top from Steam.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Then whatever deal you have with the IP holders,
With
which
Microsoft or with whoever, yeah.
So I don't know. He didn't. Obviously, he's not going to say what that is.
No. But I'm just saying.
So
That's why we know
30% right off the bat.
BattleTech 2 didn't get made for this reason. We know BattleTech 2 wasn't created for licensing reasons.
Yeah, I know, man.
And so, which was foolish of Paradox, but it's like, so that's why I'm saying no one else is going to come in. Someone else did come in, and then they said, well, this isn't worth our time. And so, like, you know, just at the end of the day, the big problem for anyone who, so like, you know, this is why I say if it goes away, it won't come back. Now, I actually do have a bit more optimism in terms of what PGI is capable of. If only because I think that when companies get into a situation where they kind of have to make or break, they can sometimes pull off unexpected surprises. But I would also say that, like, I did a video on it. You probably watched the video. I'm like, if they learn the lessons from the other games that have come out and they take the successful elements of those, and that is not beyond what the people there are capable of. I'm not, like, you know, I'm not a huge defender or whatever. I'm not saying that that will happen even. I'm saying, yeah, you know, couldn't. But if they learn the lessons from HBS BattleTech, from Mech Commander, and from their own game, like, you know, from their own slice of this, which is MechWarrior 5 Mercenaries and Clans, and they can create a formula that comes to with those elements, even if they're not perfect, it will be a good enough game that it would expand the IP. I actually do think it, if they came out with a Mech Commander game, if that was the choice they made, and they learned from each of these individual games and combined the components that fit best together, and that's not an impossible task, and it's not beyond any game studio, not just PGI, or any game studio can look at that and go, okay, this is what the metrics work like for this. So, like, you know, if I were them, I would look at, like, what is happening off the battlefield, meaning, like, what is your management side of your game look like, which is what Mech Commander and BattleTech would have been doing. What do we look like for things on the battlefield? How is it interpreted? How is it visually, you know, brought to the audience? How do we make the gameplay compelling and feel tight, while taking what's there and improving where we can? And it's again, RTS and RTT are not an impossible genre to be in. And how do we tell a story in that with our current, you know, storytelling structure that engages people with what we're doing? How do we make something that engages people the way HBS BattleTech did, or engages people the way that Clans did? Like, this is all possible. It just is. It's not an impossible feat. Sure. But, like, it's just a matter of, can they learn the right lessons? Because if they have like a $3 million budget or whatever, you know, Russ was talking about, and they put together something that's comparable to Mech Commander 1, but has a decent management system like HBS BattleTech, and it has decent procedurally generated
Unreal
battles.
5. Right.
Yeah. Unreal 5, you know, procedurally generated battles, you know, that, and they actually approach it from the perspective, because remember, Giga Drilling might not actually work as well in Mech Commander, because Mech Commander is a different, it's a combination of RNG, but also it's a tactical overhead game. So it's a different thing than MechWarrior. If you can take all of that into account, I actually think that there's a real market for that.
I do.
That's agree. Bigger than the BattleTech market. So I'm not willing to write off PGI. If they drop Mech Commander and if they decide to do Mech Commander and they drop it and it's a fat turd, I will write them off. But I genuinely don't think that the people there are inhibited from making something that a lot of people could enjoy in that respect. You got to remember, MechWarrior 5, for all the shit we talk about it, MechWarrior 5 Mercenaries is the second most successful MechWarrior game ever. It's the second most successful BattleTech game ever. Now, is that good? Is that bad? We can talk about those things. It's not even a game for me necessarily, but I'm still able to recognize that's the second most successful MechWarrior title that has ever been released, regardless of what we want to say about it. So there, and MechWarrior 5 has expanded the audience. Again, like, you know, it reached that ceiling, you know, like Russ had that discussion about that, and I think that the ceiling is a bit higher than what Russ thinks it is. And I think there's a lot they could do to improve their gameplay side, obviously, just the same as you. But, like, I do think that Mech Commander opens up a whole new market that can allow them to expand into, and no one is doing something like Mech Commander. I know somebody's doing like an homage game right now or something to it, but that's not the same as having like an actual like Mech Commander sequel at budget and at scale, that reflects kind of like what the feeling you got with Mech Commander 1.
Yeah, I mean, Mech Commander 1 is that and Desperate Measures are my number one game, and then I would say followed up by BattleTech, especially modded
HBS.
side. Yeah, I'm gonna let's go back here just a second. I'm gonna push back and say no other studio. There's one factor, one scenario, or one thing that ties PGI and HBS together. They both were successful with the IP, and then they got bought out. And both are one's already gone because of finances, paradox.
HBS going down the way it did was absolutely asinine.
I know, but I'm just saying both were successful with the IP. I think another studio coming in would have to be independent. I don't think a publisher, them having an attached publisher, would work really well.
Just don't think it'll happen because of the money.
Yeah, well, it is tight. It would have to be like a fan group that just whatever. I know. But a fan realistically, group I know. No, what I'm saying, a fan group, it actually formed a studio. That's what I'm saying, dedicated towards that.
But the problem is you mentioned that PGI learns all the wrong lessons. A fan group coming in will learn only the lessons based off of what appeals to the audience that's already there, and they will have a niche down version of what that is overwhelmingly.
Would they be happy with that though? Like PGI has been profitable and would continue to be profitable.
Sure, but what I mean, but what I mean is like, I am very skeptical that most people who get into this type of business would be willing to live on peanuts.
Yes, you're saying it's plausible but not practical.
It's an impractical thing once people start looking into the money. Like once you actually realize, oh hey, if we get together and we spend $12 million building out this thing, and there's a good chance it flops because like we're new to this. It's not going to be exactly that. We have to build our own shit for it. It could be a total disaster. And it will take years to develop something. Then like you compare that to what if we put, like, if you take a look at where the real success in the gaming industry is right now, it is through small developers doing incredibly small, simple games, spamming them out there until one of them becomes viral. So I'm very critical of independent developers because I think they don't get the same flack the AAA companies do. For the record, here's a terrifying number for you. The same number of games become big successes every year.
It's not many.
Now you might, but the number of games have gone up. The number of successes have remained the same.
Yeah. Which means there's a lot of failure. Yep.
Which means there's I absolutely, it drives me nuts whenever I hear it's like, oh, indies are the future. I'm like, more independent studios fail than AAA studios. You just never hear about it.
Yeah, it's the iceberg analogy. Like you only see the ones above the water. You don't see all the other stuff. Yeah.
You don't see all the ones that sink to the bottom.
I guess what I'm saying to BattleTech specifically is, I think if PGI could do it and HBS could do it, there could be another studio. Keep in mind, HBS was the original.
HBS was made by Jordan Weissman.
I know that's the X factor. Yeah, I know.
Let me say this: if Jordan Weissman makes a brand new game studio, and Jordan Weissman makes a BattleTech game, it will be successful.
All right, there's a hot take. There's a clip. Jordan, come back to us, please. We love you. We need you.
It's true.
We need you.
You know what? I don't think it will because Mitch is gone.
Yeah.
So like Jordan is still active. He still goes out and he does stuff for things, but like it wasn't just Jordan who put HBS BattleTech together. A major on the production
commander
side
himself
was Mitch.
Yeah.
And Mitch is retired now. So without Mitch, like, could Jordan come back? Sure. I don't actually think that's impossible, but it's not just Jordan. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
like
the magic sauce wasn't just him. Yeah, I know. Yeah. Mech Commander, man, I was not expecting him to drop that little nugget, and he does that on my stream for a reason.
Do you know what's crazy podcast? Is I actually thought he would.
Oh, I didn't see that coming.
So I live stream every day, and we talked about this late last year. I said 100% they're going to do something like Mech Commander or HBS BattleTech because of the cost. And like,
Yep.
I want, like, and the reason, like, like, and people are like, what do you mean? I'm like, MechWarrior is more expensive to develop than HBS BattleTech or Mech Commander are, because they are isometric games that you like, and strategy games actually don't take as much cost as first person shooter games. And I was just like, if they're trying to make something on the cheap, they'll try to make something like Mech Commander. And when he said that, I kid you not, when I watched your replay of that stream, I was like, I fucking knew it. I'm like, I fucking knew it. I was right.
So before, I don't know if you've ever done this, go to YouTube and type in Mech Commander Mercenaries. Have you ever done that?
No.
You should. Do it right now and let me know what you see.
No, I do what I want. You can't tell me what to do.
You're going to do it right now, because there is already a Mech Commander Mercenaries. This is why I wanted to talk about this. Specifically this. I have videos on Mech Commander Mercenaries because
no, I've seen you got on your, like, I'm subscribed to your channel.
Because
I have seen these pop up.
Yrot, aka Tori, who now works for Piranha Games, me and him started Mech Commander Mercenaries as a mod project for MechWarrior 5 Mercenaries. And I even reached out to Russ just to verify, like, just because it was a mod, it worked, but we called it Mech Commander Mercenaries. Now, since then, it hasn't been updated. So if you're watching this, it is not up to date, blah, blah, blah. But the whole idea about me bringing this up is the idea isn't new. And also, I believe Tori would do a really good job from a design standpoint from it. Hearing him talk about
So you were all doom and gloom only a little while ago. I don't think PGI can do this.
I said MechWarrior. I think they've got slippery fingers right now, and I just don't know, man. I've wanted. Let me just say this, just to clarify. I have wanted PGI to blow me out of the water and fucking say, you know what, Russ? God damn, this is so good. Holy shit. I'm gonna get my friends to play. That's what I want.
To be fair, part of it is you're a cynical old man, though.
Maybe.
I mean, I'm not, like, I am too. Doing this channel and just my prior career has helped me a lot as I've gotten older to have, like, enough insight in terms of, like, why I feel the way I do, or to examine what I like or don't like and why I don't like it, or why. Like, sometimes I even realize when I'm being unfair to something, where I'm like, that's actually not entirely fair for me to say it that way. I feel this way because I'm an old man.
Yeah.
And so, or like, I've realized sometimes I'm like, this is literally not built for me.
Yes,
like,
I've came to that conclusion. Yes.
And so, like, that doesn't mean that, like, that I shouldn't be catered to as a client, just to be very clear. But it just means that, like, I'm able to recognize, like, oh, this is what they're going for, or this is the market they're trying to engage with. This is who they're trying to build out for. And I would just say that, again, I think Piranha's hit or miss. I think they swing, meaning that, like, some things are good, some things are not good. Like, it's literally like, like, I don't have an ingrained emotional, like, oh, it's an awesome idea, or, oh, they suck. Like, I just don't have, like, they're just a game company trying to make games. Sometimes they're good, sometimes they're not.
Sure.
And I think they do have the people necessary
for Mech Commander. Well, the cost, you said cost is a big thing. So for those that are listening, that's sort of what Russ was saying when he said, hey, we already have all of the pipeline tools.
When he started talking about cost, you should have seen, like, I wasn't live streaming, right? But when I was there, was like, I knew it. Yeah. I fucking knew it.
And it makes sense too, because what he's basically saying is, hey, capital's a problem right now. We already have the pipeline. We already have the tool set. We have everything basically we would need. Obviously, a little bit finagling here.
They would have to move some stuff around, but they have the essential components.
Yeah, they have all 3D assets. They already have. They already have the destruction system. They have spawns. I mean, they have pretty much almost every. I mean, not everything, but they have a good foundation where they can do a vertical slice. And I bet you that's already been either done or will be done because they are working on another DLC. We know now.
Well, also there was a video that blew up recently where somebody was talking about Mech Commander too,
I
and
saw
it wasn't me. It was like
it was a good video. I liked it.
It was a good video. Good on him. But no, what I said to people when I made my Mech Commander video, which did all right, it got 25,000 views, is I pointed out, I'm like, if you want Mech Commander, you have to make noise about it. I'm like, you know, like if this is what you want to see from the IP, there has to be noise beyond just Russ coming onto a podcast and talking about it. There has to, you have to show that there's real, genuine interest by an audience,
which is tough
for something like that,
because there's not many creators in the BattleTech sphere. There really is.
Not only that, but here's the thing. You know why that video blew up from that guy? Because he's not a BattleTech content creator. So YouTube puts you into buckets.
Sure.
And because I'm in a BattleTech bucket, they only cater my content to people who are pre-existing BattleTech fans. That guy was a small channel, so YouTube was willing to pump it out to larger groups of people. And when he showed Mech Commander, what ended up happening is it engaged people from those tens of millions of people we talked about before who don't necessarily go out and look for BattleTech content. They're older fans, or they are newer people who are now engaging with it because YouTube was willing to spread that a lot more than through someone like me or you or through text and things like that. So
148,000 views 13 days ago.
He blew it out of the water. That's so awesome. I'm actually quite grateful that he put that video together.
But it's just one of those things where, from a gameplay perspective, you mentioned StarCraft. You also mentioned a few other games earlier. The question is Mech Commander. Obviously, real-time tactical, which means...
The only games that are really comparable to Mech Commander, even though they're different, are games like World in Conflict or Dawn of War 2. A little bit of Company of Heroes.
Bring it up. So here's my question. There's a lot of people that like Mech Commander 2. I did not like it. I thought Mech Commander 1 was
I like both. I think they're both good.
It was this weird time. I think 3D, it just wasn't there. But aesthetics aside, here's my question. Are they going to run into the people are wanting Dawn of War 1 or people wanting Dawn of War 2? And do you know what you are?
About the same number of people played both games. So I know that because Mitch on Blue Sky mentioned that. So like Mitch pointed out, they had the same sales approximately for Mech Commander 1 as Mech Commander 2. The game didn't grow. The reason why they didn't continue with it is like, well, we got the same number of people. We wanted more people, so we didn't continue down that path. So like I try to verify what I say. I don't just try to talk shit. So like I just talk shit. I did. Oh fuck no. So back in the day I used to like on this, like I think about 4 or 5 years ago on stream, we did a whole investigation where I went through to every public resource I could to find out what games sold based off publicly disclosed information.
That would be hard to find if you didn't have resources.
It was back in the day you had VG game charts, stuff like that could give you an approximate idea. And because especially because of like this had to rely on retail data. And so it won't be 100% accurate, but you can kind of see everything post MechWarrior 2.
So what did Mech Commander
goes on the slump?
What happened? How many did they sell? Ish.
They did. We don't have the same number. We don't have the publicly disclosed number at all for Mech Commander. We just know based off what Mitch says that they sold approximately the same. So Mech Commander 1 was good enough and sold well enough to justify making Mech Commander 2, which is why they built it and made it.
Circa 1998 is when the game came out. So
so I think Mech Commander 2 comes out in 2001. I think. So like, you know, it justified a 3-year development cycle to make a whole new game in a 3D engine at the time. And you know, like they said, hey, look, if this, and here's the thing, we also know that they consider doing more Mech Commander, but just the interest wasn't there because it didn't grow. So because the second game did not expand past what the confines of the first game was, like, a big thing about the game industry is they're never satisfied with just selling enough games to make money. They want the game to not only make money, but to grow. There's an obsession with growth. They're not worried about profitability even. Do you know how crazy it is that you can be profitable and fail? Like if you like if
it
you
doesn't make
actually
sense
think
to
about,
me and you, like, because
it actually makes perfect sense to me because of my previous environment.
oh man,
But
like intrinsically it doesn't.
But I think it's bullshit. So
Yeah.
like I like in the context, I understand what they're thinking and why they think the way they are.
I feel different about it.
But I think it's a fucking stupid way to do business.
Yeah.
And which is one reason why, I mean, I could rant about how the economy is shaped, but like, but effectively speaking, they are like, look, it's profitable, yes, but is it worth our time? No.
They're chasing
And
that dragon, that little dragon.
Yeah, oh, look, you can catch me.
Yeah,
Come on, you just gotta try a little harder.
And you wish that a small developer would just be like happy and content with just that.
No, but they themselves have to do they're all playing the same game. They're all playing the same game, whether they're a small developer or a big developer.
I just need to win a few $1 billion somehow. Don't ask questions, and I can bring the IP home. We won't have any of these issues.
Look, if I won the lottery, I would absolutely waste my money.
Dude, I don't know if it's for sale. Like, I don't think Microsoft would sell.
No, Microsoft wouldn't sell.
I don't think that even if
so, actually, there is a condition where I can see Microsoft selling, which is so. Now, for the record, I actually don't think this is a real hot take. I don't know if it would be good for the IP if everything got unified again. In the context of like, one of the reasons why the IP has survived is because it wasn't unified. Like, if everything was unified, it would have all just gone down in flames probably in the early 2000s. Like, you know, in the dark age and post dark age era, I think everything would have probably just collapsed. And then you would see some, like, it would end up like War Machine, where some company comes over and just picks at its bones and tries to resuscitate it with the defibrillators.
They need a dictator that's, you know, on top, like yourself or me.
Creative dictators work great until they move on. No, but like this, like, so for instance, Jordan wanted to move on, and once Jordan was gone, and once his dad was gone, and things like that, things started falling apart at that point. Like, again, it's.
Let me live my dream, Big. Jeez, man.
No, but I'm just saying that, like, I don't know if it's necessarily good, because it will also just, if the IP is unified, it would also destroy the current ecosystem. It would change everything that is so like, and it wouldn't necessarily replace that ecosystem with something that was more viable or would work.
I guess what I'm saying is, maybe business aside, let's just say I became king for the day. I now own the IP. I would be okay with it just making money, not growing, because I am just a fan. I guess that's what I'm saying is, like, the people who would buy the IP are not the type of people who actually operate in the industries it exists in. I'm not buying it for the money, you know, like.
No, that's what I mean. But for most people who would want to actually do this, they wouldn't be the type of person who would actually do it.
I'm a benevolent dictator in this case, you know. That's...
Yeah, but you just see what I'm saying, though. Like, you know, there's a reason why it hasn't happened.
Look, I've said this so many times on my stream. We don't like to hear it, but the market speaks for itself. If MechWarrior was doing better, we would have more. And people don't, deserves this. It doesn't deserve shit. Like, this is just a reality. You know?
I will point out, if we lived in a reality where MechWarrior 3 was a massive success, you know, that followed in the footsteps of MechWarrior 2, the whole world would be different. Like, I mean, like, the whole world, like, if the audience didn't move away from 3. So I can tell you this, it was the most advanced game they could possibly build at the time. In some respects, MechWarrior 3 was more sophisticated than MechWarrior 4 on the back end.
I want to be surprised.
And they spent big money on marketing it. They spent big money because they thought this is a successor to MechWarrior 2, and so they were willing to go all in. I saw them. It was one of the biggest pay-per-view events for like, they had it at a WWE sponsored 2 pay-per-view events. They had it on Mech, and like, they had a whole infographic and everything. I'm like, oh no. So they put real money into this. Then they also put money into it for like several other sporting events. It was like, I remember watching this live at the time. I was like, that's great. I'm a huge MechWarrior fan, but even I was just like, why are they trying to market it to WWE fans?
Well,
Like,
you can't fault them for not understanding because they're going off Mech 2. I mean,
yeah,
that would be a common error where you'd fall into and you'd be like, we couldn't have seen that coming because.
Oh yeah, like
yeah,
oh
like
100%. But just saying that like they misappropriated where their resources went because they were expecting it to be MechWarrior 2.
Yeah. And the gaming world had changed and they didn't.
And the game, so MechWarrior 2 sold millions upon millions. It was a StarCraft. It was like StarCraft and Diablo back in the day. Like you would go to every retail store and what was on the wall? MechWarrior 2.
MechWarrior 2, yeah.
And like, you know, this was a game that was chronically just selling material.
Platinum edition, it released on the PlayStation, it got bundled with stuff. I mean,
oh, it was everywhere.
Yeah.
And then they're like, well, obviously MechWarrior 3. Obviously MechWarrior 3
I didn't know that.
Drops less than 1 million fucking copies. Oh.
Yeah, that's rough. That's rough. I loved Mech 3, not from like I vaguely remember
like you know, like I'm not trying to be like I'm not even trying to be mean to it, but I just think it's the funniest thing in the world to me.
I just didn't realize the impact back then of maybe what you're talking about. Obviously, as a fan, and I was a teenager at the time, but like it was had because I mainly did online play. I remember playing the single player, but it was mainly online. That's sort of my first dip into online. I did multiplayer BattleTech on AOL, ran up a $300 bill unknowingly. And
hell yeah, brother.
Yep. And my mom found out and I was like, I don't know what that charge is for. And she turned off the internet. So I was stuck in the darkness for a few years and then Mech 3 and MSN Gaming Zone. And yeah, I played, I
played Mech Commander online. I played, this is actually probably the first time I actually played online was Mech Commander.
Oh, speaking of, going back to the question, Mech Commander, Mercenaries, because that's what he named it. You mentioned BattleTech and like the management side of like the gaming and stuff. A lot of like, to me, some of it you don't want to do like payroll. Fucking that's monotonous. Oh my god.
Yeah, I mean, they have payroll in HPS.
Yeah, but yeah, trust me, I know. My bill's like 1.6 million for like 40
but that's how they balance the campaign.
Yeah. But my point being is it what would Mech Commander look like nowadays? Because I look at Dawn of War 2, also Supreme Commander 2, very good analogy, like comparisons, because one is a squad-based, normal, you know, whatever, and then one's more of a hero, where the heroes have abilities and heroes have skills, and then, you know, is it a combined arms game? You know, the lack of, I would say one of the issues I have in Mech 5 is scalability, whereas HPS sort of gives you a way out because you have the Argo and that's storage, you know, for a bunch of mechs, but like Mech 5 is just magic. You know, so
if
it's just
believe in magic.
Yeah. So it's just one of those like, what is Mech Commander? And in your opinion, where do you think what would attract you to the game? It's tough because a part of me says what would make a good game or what would make it but from a business perspective, where do you think they would need to put their sights on? Or is it even that hard?
I mean, like, so it depends. So it depends on who you're aiming for.
Who should they aim for though? That's what I'm asking you. That's your Russ's shoes.
That's actually a really tough one. I would probably, so it depends on how much I want to get. If that, it depends on like how much I think I can get. If I would say the most maximalist viewpoint of what they could get is capturing a big chunk of the HBS audience. That would be probably who I would be targeting because they're the most recent people and they've been starved for content. How many people have been like, oh, I want HBS BattleTech 2.
Yeah.
You know, like, and so that means the initial game, the thing you branch out on it is with the gameplay. So what you want to do is you want to try to engage other people who have not played HBS BattleTech or Mech Commander through the Mech Commander tactical gameplay. So you want to try to capture people who play Co. You want to try to capture people who played Dawn of War 2. You don't want to get into base building. You don't want to get into any of that shit, because that is just going to be a nightmare. You just want to try to narrow in and capture those people who aren't currently engaged. So I'm not talking about people who already play HBS. I'm talking about for new people coming in, you want the tactical gameplay to be the selling point. On the management side, that's where it gets tricky. So if you want to put the bare minimum into it, you want to make the Mech Lab and management side look like Mech Commander 1, and which is not great. But the reason why I say that is because it was very simple, and simplicity works sometimes. Like I know for BattleTech fans, there's like, this is sacrilege, but I'm talking about what brings people to who aren't in our ecosystem already. What are they going to be interested necessarily in going down to the fine details on the mechs like they did in HBS? Now, ideally, I would prefer a system closer to HBS in terms of Mech Lab, salvage, things like that. But I also think that if they move down the path of Mech Commander 1, if that was like the ease of the method of easiest transition, if that makes sense, to just get a game that would be accessible to a large number of people, that might be a better path. It just kind of depends on, are you targeting people who want more management, or are you targeting people who want less management? I don't think it should matter lore based wise. Like, I tell people this all the time. I'm like, man, like, the lore matters until it doesn't. The lore matters until you can't build a game that people want to play. Now, that doesn't mean that I think you should mutate it, as we talked about earlier, into something that's unrecognizable. It's just like, oh yeah, guys, people love Gundam. It's like, yeah, but BattleTech's not fucking Gundam. Like, you're still within the confines of an IP, but that doesn't mean you need to drill down to like the core of all of these things in every possible way. You can hand wave your way past certain things without necessarily getting the backlash rolling through. So it just depends on, like, for me, I don't know which one I would target more, because the people who want the deep mech lab and stuff like that, they're actually the ones who will play the most. But are there enough of them to justify, like, or are you going to try to cast a wider net or a more targeted net? That, like, the more like HBS you make it, the more you make it appeal to just HBS fans. Now, that's enough to justify getting a game made.
Is your gameplay fun, where I just want to get on planet and that's the holy shit part?
As I said, the gameplay is I'm talking about already. I was just like, you're targeting a co-audience. So that means you have action, you have you have high tension, you have the fog of war that is going to like prevent you from, like, one of the best things about Mech Commander, and you know this, is once something starts picking up on the radar and you don't know what it is. Remember, once you get like the Beagle active probe, how crazy it is, because you know what like, you actually, it's not just a random target at that point. You're like, oh shit, it's an assault mech, or oh shit, it's this. Like, like once you have those longer range, more detailed scanners, and you're getting a bit more of an idea of what's coming your way, that was huge. But in the early game especially, you're like, there's a radar blip coming my way and I don't know what it is. Is it going to be like an Atlas? Is it going to be something just popping out? Or is it going to be a Condor and you just shoot it up with a couple PPCs? Get out of here.
Yeah, it's a Humvee and you're just like, oh, okay. Well, I didn't have to worry about that. Yeah, I think it's funny because, like, there's still things like Rooster here and, this is Countess, and you have these weird connections with some of the characters. Like, there's some that I just didn't care about.
This is Rooster. I'm getting shot up.
Yeah, and so there's these nostalgia, simple voice lines. The Mech Lab was very simple, and I always push back on a lot of people saying, like, hey, just FYI, lore wise, a Centurion just has an autocannon in its arm, like a medium autocannon. It doesn't have like MechWarrior doesn't hop on their thing and swap it out really quick.
I mean, I have no objection to that system. Like, I think, like,
can you imagine, like I said, if mechs I think you have to have customization. I think that's fine, but I'm not as tied to that as gameplay. Because look, I look at clans, I look at mercs, I look at MWO gameplay. For instance, MechWarrior Online is by far the best MechWarrior PvP we've ever had, and there's still something to this day where you hop on, and yes, it's Canyon Network, but this round isn't happening. It's going to play out different, and it's exciting. It's different, and to me, it's just one of those things where Mech Commander, I see it from a business. As soon as he said that, I was like, oh yeah, because if they can make it for a fraction. And not put 5 million or whatever they said into clans, they could do it probably for.
HBS has sold over 1 million copies, and so that means like HBS made a lot of money.
I think they made way more than that on sales.
Oh no! But what I say is like the last time I ever heard of a number that they put out was
a million.
But over time, it's sold more than that. It's probably sold 1.5, maybe 2. But like just saying that, like
sure.
It's sold a lot of copies. They made like for the very meager budget that went into making that game, and so that just looking at the even when you break down what costs are, let's say that they sold 200,000 units of Mech Commander or whatever, and it only cost them $3 million to make. 200,000 times 50, we'll just say it's $50 just because they probably wouldn't charge 60 or 70. So like, let's say they're $50 a pass. You are looking at that point at 200,000 units. That's going to be 200,000.
I'm not trying to do math on that one.
No, you're looking at about $10 million in sales. 30% goes to Steam, so now you're down to 7 million. Let's say that Microsoft takes another 15%, you're down to 5.5 million. Well, you just made $2.5 million.
Yeah.
So I don't know those. That's not a guaranteed number.
Yeah, and he did say a guaranteed number, sort of, which he said is we have sort of a 250,000-ish people come back and buy whatever mercs. So that's their guaranteed. And so that's pretty strong of saying, and that's why I was sort of saying is like,
so I'm just saying if they can make MechWarrior 5, if they can make Mech Commander 3, and they get 250,000 units sold, that's enough money to actually say we made money.
And they could do the
they could do their DLCs. If they do well enough, I think if they did well enough, they could sell 1 million copies.
And they could pump out DLCs.
Yes.
Just like how they've been doing with, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. Just like mercs, DLCs.
It would work even better for Mech Commander, though.
Yeah, adds on to the original.
Because the DLCs for Mech Commander, if they do them right, campaigns for RTS and RTT games are just more engaging than campaigns for for first-person shooter games. Like, if you build them correctly and you have like real tactical options per mission, people will go back and play those repeatedly.
Yeah, that's what was unique with Mech Commander Mercenaries when we were doing the thing. Is like it was almost like the game was meant for that. Like when I was playing with it, I mean, obviously there's UI elements.
BattleTech is literally meant for this type of gameplay.
Yeah, that isometric top down.
That's what the fucking game is, actually.
And we were talking about animations on my stream, and like, but in a turn-based in an isometric, you almost need over exaggeration on certain animations so that, like the King Crab waddle, how stupid it is in MWO, in my opinion, and Mech 5. But
I love the waddle. Don't take this away from me.
In the top down, it gives it a unique character, and you're like, oh, okay. So like to me,
one of the big things for me would be if they did the death animations right. Because right now there's not really death animations, things just drop.
Yeah.
But if you have a death animation where a mech just rears back slowly, and then falls, that actually adds a huge amount to a game like
I'm gonna say they're not gonna.
No, they wouldn't. No, I've no doubt.
Because that would be another layer.
It's gonna ragdoll all around the screen like nobody's fucking
flip
business.
Around and do this or no. Yeah, man, I'm optimistic. I love Mech Commander. I think it would be fantastic. I'm also selfishly.
I do think it could move over 500,000 to 1 million units if it's done well.
Yeah.
If they do it well. Look,
the people in charge, like I said, Tori. I know he does design. I trust Tori. I I believe in him. I know Chris as well. And so it's just one of those things where I think the bar for success from a cost perspective is lower. The bar from success as far as deliverables, I don't think you need huge cinematics like you did with,
they would probably still do cinematics, I suspect, for good or for ill, because Russ did mention that.
And they could do retro style, like the little video. They could add some of that character and flair that I think we all sort of, and be like, oh, they did the thing. And but I don't know. To me, it's like, I think when I look at BattleTech and Mercs and all that, it's like, it's the struggle of keeping your head above the water I don't like how they did in Mercs with the difficult and scaling, and it ties into C-bills, and you have to have this huge roster because you take too much damage and blah blah. I don't like that. But in Mech Commander, it's just one of those things where if they can,
the management system feels more it feels more important in HBS, and it feels more important in Mech Commander, because your mechs are not just the things you're piloting. They're things that are necessary assets for you to engage with. That is an adorable dog.
Is it? So I know I've seen your puppers run around. So yeah, she's been dead.
My dogs are super angry at me because I woke up too late today to take them out in the morning. Ooh. So they'll just go in the afternoon. They'll get over it.
Just blame me. Just be like, hey, it's that short Hobbit.
No, it was the heat, man.
Oh yeah.
Like I would have slept until 11 if it wasn't for having to be up today.
Okay, so what are the pitfalls? What do you see as the pitfalls?
Biggest one right out the gate, because they wouldn't do this one on Game Pass, so I don't think that would be an issue. They've like Russ mentioned that Microsoft.
Do you think they go console or just PC?
I think it'd be just PC at first. They might do console as an eventual thing later, because you'd have to adapt a lot to make it work on console, and that is possible, but that just means delayed release. I would say that the bigger hurdle right now is that there's so many games being released that you get lost. You get lost in the noise. That is the single scariest thing for any game that comes out now, is that you are competing every day with other releases. There's no single day of the year where it's like, this is our day.
Do you think
this is our launch?
Do you think not that that would be a worry, but do you lean into just your fan base? You know, you're going to get at least probably MechWarrior 5 player, would be. That's what I'm asking. Like, do you just lean into your community?
MechWarrior 5 clans had poor discoverability. So, like, even being a BattleTech game, it had poor discoverability because of factors, not just Game Pass, but other factors outside of the immediate control, things slipping through your fingers because of the nature of the modern gaming market. So, if Mech Commander is to be successful, then there has to be discoverability. And this doesn't matter if the game sucks or not. This is just, the game could be the best game ever, and there's a real chance that the game doesn't succeed if discoverability is poor.
Marketing's tough, man.
Oh no, I know it is.
Like if you were to say, hey, like use that guy's video for instance, like, hey, you're gonna make a video about Mech Commander, and it's gonna get
150,000 views. Yeah.
But to me, it's like, how many of those individuals didn't know about it? To me, I watched it because it was like, so I'm already in the ecosystem. I guess my point being is marketing. I hear people say, well, they just didn't do enough marketing. I'm like, dude, marketing is not the same as it was.
I did not say they didn't do enough marketing.
No, not you. No, what I'm saying is most people say, like, anything MechWarrior related, MechWarrior Online marketing. What marketing? Not
only that, like, so let's say you spend $30,000 on marketing. What do you get for that?
Yeah, not
how is that targeted?
Not
like you see what I mean, right? Like, for the games that we see because of marketing, those games have spent millions of dollars. Yeah. So again, it becomes like, well, if you're spending $3 million in the game, you're not going to spend $3 million marketing the game.
I think marketing has changed because of YouTube and the influencer content creator.
Realistically speaking, they should engage with content creators to market it, and not just people like me and you. I mean other content creators outside of the ecosystem are the people they should be targeting.
Or like you mentioned company heroes. Imagine reaching out to someone who plays that.
Yep.
I mean, because you said you're trying to grab that audience. We also have those similar mechanics and do that. You don't reach out to, I don't know, a
Candy Crush,
or like a Call of Duty. That was one of the issues with MechWarrior 5. And some of the DLCs and marketing that they did is they had an Apex Legends, like it's like two. Anyways, yes.
These are not comparable games, and they're not going to engage the same audience.
No.
Like I remember I was at a games convention in Seattle, and somebody's like, "Oh man, can you help me do this and this?" I'm like, I'd just be taking your money for nothing, man.
Yeah.
And like he's just like, "What do you mean?" I'm like, my audience likes me, but my audience likes me because of the thing that I cover. I'm like, if I just randomly cover your shit, they're not gonna care, man. Like I told him the truth.
Yeah.
I'm like, it's like you're not gonna get 30,000 views. You're gonna get 3. I'm like, this is not how I engage with people. Like, I've never taken a paycheck to cover anything. Even with that core box, when my Mad Cat 2 video drops, where I unbox that, I'm donating its value to charity.
Yeah.
Like I don't really play that. Like even on the free product side, there's no free lunch. I would never cover something I wouldn't buy myself in the first place. Yeah. But like, I just point out to people, even because I used to, have relationships with other companies and like, in my old life. And so I just told this guy straight up, I'm like, man, like, it's hard to because sometimes for some people, they'll just follow the content creator because they have an attachment to the content creator. For other people, they do have an attachment to the content creator, but they're also attached to what the content creator does. So there's different personality types when it comes to content creators. And so you can't just drop on somebody and be like, yeah, this guy covers D&D, so if I give him an RPG, people eat up that RPG. It's like you have to carefully discern why people watch that content creator before you consider engaging with them.
Yeah, 100%. The business side of being a streamer, and obviously you're God, I hate the word. You're a content creator. I think I made that, by the way, I'm in an error years ago. Apparently, when I said content creation, I was mainly pointing out long form, which meant YouTube. Not necessarily just streaming,
it's TikTok,
but it's
Twitter,
everything.
whatever.
I was corrected, and I stand by. Like I owned up to it. But business relationships, like taking sponsorships, having business relationships with brands and stuff like that, keeping good terms, like those. That was one of the things that like I've talked about this openly, that really bummed me out about our relationship with PGIs. Because like, and by the way, when I say I almost got us fired multiple times, I'm not shitting you. Because at the heart, especially at the time, I'm a BattleTech fan, and so like when you're putting me in a place where that comes second, but for my partner at the time, it's not. It's like, hey, dude, I have a kid. This is before I had kids and stuff like that too. So like that changes the dynamic. And one thing I never wanted NGNG to be, and I don't know from your business perspective, is like I never wanted to be that that clash of.
But I want to point out, like I've always told them, I'm like, if shit sucks, I'm just gonna say it sucks.
I think that's
like,
good.
And like, I'm like. The first time I met Lauren Coleman, he's like, oh, if there's something you don't like, you can let us know. I'm like, oh, we're going to do that right now. Yeah. And I did the same thing to Randall when I met him in Seattle the first time. He was just like, oh, sometimes our products don't land. I'm like, yeah, like this one. He's like, okay.
I could see him say that too.
And like, I just want to point out, I absolutely love Randall. Randall is one of the genuinely coolest and nicest and like human beings I've ever met. I've always gotten along well with Lauren. I think Lauren's an incredibly cool dude. But like,
that's a healthy relationship, though. I think people need to understand that. Like, if I can't be critical, and this is, I don't know if you know the drama with me and PGI too, when I criticized one of the first Mech 5 DLC. I never thought I'd have Russ back on the podcast, because like it was a and
yeah,
but,
he'd be pretty mad. I imagine he'd be pretty upset about that.
but it was like one of those things. It was like, look, you guys, I don't work for you, like,
yeah, like,
you know, and if you don't like what I have to say, and I remember the drama actually was offline, and I'm not going to name any names, but it was just one of those. But it was one of those like the individual said, "Well, you know what you're doing, you know, blah blah blah." I'm like, have you fucking looked at Steam reviews? I was like, I'm not the one making shit up.
Oops, yeah, like just at the end of the day, though, I just mean to say that like I say what I think. I don't like, nobody feeds me a line and like that's just what it is. Like, no, it's important to me because like I mentioned it the other day on stream where I'm like, my relationship is with the audience and the audience will always come first. And I've like, you know, I actively told like, you know, several people who work on BattleTech, I'm like, if you guys turn this into something that I don't enjoy, I'll just do something else.
I was
like,
listening,
you know, like
I was listening to a
no
podcast recently, and it was literally covering this, and they said, you know, who do you answer to? And the host was like, I answered to myself first, and then to my family, and blah blah. And then the other guy was basically saying, "Is I answer." It was actually Mike Rowe, and he says, "I answer to my audience." He was like, if they don't like, and so everybody's got a different thing because like where you are in life, like, you know, hey, if you say the wrong thing, you're gonna burn the bridge. For me, like authenticity, it looks like the same thing with you. Is like that's why like not being tied into certain platforms, like you have a Patreon, you get support, like that's your audience. That's ones who's supporting and paying your bills and making sure that you can just continually chomp out, you know, stuff. And so for me, it's like, I know we were going on side tangent as far as like business relationships, but like choosing who, you know, you work with is so important.
So for these companies, what I mean is it's a two-way street too. You have to be careful who you choose to do the relationship with because you have to determine who's going to get the best exposure for your product. Okay. This is just my marketing hat. This isn't my personal hat. This is like if I was hired by marketing, I would be every single streamer I was looking at to help promote something or influencer of any sort, whether, you know, regardless of the platform they're on. I would be like, are people in like, because I would not be like there are core BattleTech people who you'd want to engage with. 100%. Like, you know, you would want to engage with people who are into MechWarrior, like yourself or Baradul or whoever, right? You would want to engage with people like Tex. You'd want to engage, like, of course, these are people who are anchors in the audience you already have. But the people who you would really want to look at if you want to expand through marketing would be looking at individual content creators, but then seeing if people follow those content creators because of the game they already play, or if they're following them because of the strength of that content creator's convictions and personality. And so I would only be targeting the latter. I would not be trying, because then people are going to give it a chance. They're not just people who play Company of Heroes, or they're not just people who play Call of Duty. You know, there are people who will actually engage with what the creator is looking at. Yeah. So like, you know, it's just really hard though, because a lot of those people have their time already heavily booked. Because, you know, like that's just the truth, right? Like, so you have, so it's a two-way street. It's a difficult thing to do. It's a difficult thing to manage. Marketing right now is incredibly difficult on the company end of things. I don't envy anybody who has to do it, but just, sorry, just at the end of the day, that's through marketing. That's the only way to expand the game. Is to reach out to people who are not in the ecosystem. No, that's actually a good perspective. Like I said, is not just finding, and I think that's what Darren did a really good back in the day. We did a few tests with a marketing budget and finding content creators that weren't necessarily MechWarrior everyday content creators, but it was like, can they activate their audience? Yeah, but also, are they passionate? Are they passionate about things? Do they, you know? And I think we did a pretty good job. Like I said, I think
just the amount of money though, because like imagine if you thought like Co-Carnage was gonna be, and you want him. I remember on one of his streams, he stopped the stream. I think he's got a clip on this, and he was like, there was a dev or someone in channel, and he stopped his stream and said, "You can't afford me." And it's like, I don't think people realize, like, even us, because he's an A-lister, like you're talking about S tier like streamer, and like how much it costs to get their audience.
Yeah.
And I mean, that could literally be your entire like
game budget.
I think Clans on one of their launches, was it? I think they had code lined up, and I think he played like an hour or whatever, and I'm just thinking, oh well, there goes your entire marketing budget. Like that's gone. Just
Yeah.
So
was that engaged effectively? Well, I think the answers speak to themselves.
I don't know. I don't know. That's yeah. I don't know. That's yeah. I don't know on that one. But dude, I've taken up 3 hours of your. Actually, it's sort of gone by. I think we could talk a little bit, longer about things. Let's do a follow up.
We have entirely talked in a massive circle of nonsense. People are going to watch this and be like, "What the hell did I actually?"
What are they? Okay, quick. What are they doing for MechWarrior 5 Mercs DLC 9? What do you suspect they're going to do? Because they're working on it right now.
I think they'll do Operation Bulldog or Serpent. I think it matches up with the timeline. B, it's basically the only major event before 3060, and then after that, if they do more than that, they'll do the FedCom Civil War. It's gonna be Bulldog or Serpent.
Okay, do you think they're gonna do a Clans DLC with Jade Falcon, or are they done with Clans?
So we know that they felt that, based on public statements from the publisher, that Flashstorm they were happy with, meaning that like the publisher and PGI say that they were happy publicly to their investors with the performance of Flashstorm. I've not followed up on if they were happy with the performance of Wolves of Tukiad or anything like that. But like presumably, if they claim to be happy with them and they are, and they actually mean it, what they told their investors, then I would assume that they would do a Jade Falcon DLC, unless they think the juice isn't worth the squeeze. I would say that if I were to be a betting man, I would say that though their enthusiasm is likely muted for that, I think that they think there's just a lot more money to be made in Mercenaries than there is in Clans, and it does become like, even if you make money on the Jade Falcon DLC, you can make more money on Mercenaries DLC. It's just worth their time to do more Mercenaries DLC than it is to do more Jade Falcon DLC or whoever. I think it's 50-50 on if you will get a Jade Falcon expansion, which is disappointing because I would probably actually buy a Jade Falcon's expansion. So I'm just saying what it is. Flip a coin is my perspective on it. Flip a coin, heads or tails.
I think I agree with you on sentiments. I think Mercs is the more tractable product for them, and that's why they are doing DLC 9.
I think they'll go all the way up to the end of the FedCom Civil War.
Yeah, that makes sense. And then, which brings us into 2027. It would give them time behind the scenes to work on Mech Commander Mercenaries and get a foundation.
I think that they will make Mercenaries DLC until 2028 or 2030. In that, I think they will continue to make it as long as people will buy it, because it's cheap to make and it's guaranteed money.
And in a way, they already did Jade Falcon.
But on top of that, you also have an added benefit that they have done mechs all the way up to the end of the FedCom Civil War for MWO, and that means that if they just keep on expanding the game until they hit the end of their mech roster, it's no meaningful cost to them to import those mechs over by comparison to designing new mechs. With Alex gone, I don't know what they're going to do on the new mech front. And so I would just say, if I were them, I would mine all of the remaining mechs that they have, which means going up to 3067, and then call it a day and figure out what you want to do next.
All right, well, we'll have to touch base and see what happens, what comes true. Big, thank you again for taking the time out of your day, and sorry it's so hot there, and hopefully it's not smoky.
I'm sorry too. I'm not in the part of Canada where it's smoky
Everything's
yet.
on fire. Oh my gosh.
No,
Like
I live in beautiful British Columbia. So normally we're the province that's on fire every year. We are on fire, but we're just not on fire as
big.
much
Yeah,
as as usual. It's the rest of the country that's living my normal summer. However, I will say that probably in August it's going to get smoky. It's already a little smoky right now, but like it's not smoky. I think in August we'll get smoky.
Well, keep doing what you're doing, man. I love your content. And yeah, actually, I feel like we didn't really get to talk about that. So let's do that again in another podcast.
We talked about it when I had Beef as a guest. It was great.
Yeah. All right, dude. Have a great one, and thank you again for doing this.
Thank you for having me.